7?
Number 7, just do a quick.
Maybe Christmas, but.
Can be
that's
verbal.
if you can.
Yep. Not a whole lot happened since last meeting.
She's been here.
I've been just on the
Did
run.
you guys do a big send-off for Nicole?
Any administrative reports,
Oh, yeah,
Here we are.
principals?
Good.
Well, you know that store, I never
Committee
forget it,
reports.
you know that store at the mall that has the awning out front and you walk up the stairs and it's teenagers,
Principal, athletic director.
you know, it's got the canopy
So
over
there's
the
2 for the principal.
door, it's
Thank
dark
you.
in there.
What do they sell?
One
It's
is
hard to get down to it.
Yeah, no
Oh
problem.
my God, she went for an interview and they hired her immediately.
All right, so on the communications correspondence, EOS, what?
So,
Board meeting
She has
is
very
September
good
7th,
taste.
September 9th,
the activities. Okay, oh good. I'll get you one.
6 o'clock.
they have
Friends
good
too.
classes.
I'm just trying to put them together so that.
Warrants are on some.
Everybody
I
cries.
have this folder.
Grandparents.
You can get your file.
Was
Extension
she
on my
the
daughter
first one
graduated.
off the
And
side?
the
No, Darcy
MSBA
was the
This your last
workshop
one?
here,
I'll have one more.
Connie's gonna come
That's before that.
on the 23rd.
I like that idea.
Well, we could done it more effective.
It's really fun to see people that are walking in a question call.
Yep.
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 That made her feel good.
Yeah.
It was prepared.
I told Nicole, I said, I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know, she's got an English setup that she had the class.
All right, let's call the meeting to order. Entertain a motion. Oh, what happened to Gwen?
Do you want to get something?
Oh, we can do it. Need a motion to open the meeting?
I'll make a motion, we open our meeting. Second.
Good. Moved and seconded. We open the meeting, 5:30 PM.
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor? What was it? All right, pledge of allegiance. No silence.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take a moment, I have a moment of silence here for all of our veterans, past, present, and future. Okay. Now, adjustments to the agenda. I'll take a general consensus of the board members here, but I think the job descriptions that we're going to take a look at tonight should be in executive session, and we'll do them singularly. Because we can. And
If it doesn't deal directly with personnel and negotiations or something that needs to be identified, no, you can't do it in executive session.
well, I misinterpreted something then because,
It's not contract, it's not negotiations, it's not,
well, it says under section, state statute, Title I MRSA 405, that items which may be discussed in executive session are discussion or consideration of the employment, appointment, assignments, duties, promotion, demotion, compensation, etc., of the body or agency of investigation, hearing of charges, complaints against a person subject to the following conditions.
it has to do with an individual directly. That person would be present and be able to deal with whatever.
I understand that, but, and they are here, most of them are here. With the exception of one, I don't know if Mr. Rogers is gonna
No,
show up this evening.
so it won't be.
Okay, so does he, well anyway. So I'm under the assumption that if we're going to be reviewing the duties and assignments of, employees or administrators, that we have the right to go into executive session.
You can, but I disagree.
Well, what's the general consensus of the other board members?
I'm not allowed any notice of this.
I don't think it needs executive. It's a
Is
job
it-
description.
Is it gonna come back to bite us in the ass? If we discuss this now?
What, the individual job descriptions?
Yeah.
Well, anything's possible. But
Are you just-
I really don't,
Sorry.
excuse me. just a minute.
Sorry.
Um,
Well, Mr. Rogers accepted the job description and he knew that we didn't have it ready.
Well, yes, I suppose that's true. Well, let's ask the principals what their preference is.
I do it right out in general session.
Mhm.
I don't have anything to
I
add.
don't have any problems in open session. Is mine principal and half-time teacher? Are you going to discuss both responsibilities?
Actually, it was just junior high school.
Not you tonight.
Oh,
Well, but, yeah, that's
But,
correct.
yeah.
Just, in the future,
okay.
when your turn comes.
You can do it in open session.
Okay. Well, what say you? I don't think we're gonna be in violation of anything, to be honest with you.
Well, when you say executive session, it would just be that particular person
Yeah.
that's here
Right.
for that particular,
That's correct.
okay, well, we'd discuss it in
But they-
executive session, but then we'd come back to a general session to accept
any
it as a
action, if any.
policy.
But they also
As-
have the choice, whether they want it
That's
in
correct.
executive session or not.
Yeah. So, I guess the only one here tonight, Patty.
No,
No,
Paul is here.
Paul is here.
Policy.
Oh, I didn't see her, I'm sorry, hi Paul. What's your preference?
Well, I couldn't hear much of that.
Well, we're deciding whether or not to discuss the job descriptions of the high school principal and the guidance counselor in open session or executive session.
Open's fine with me.
Okay. Well, we'll have at her then.
Okay.
All right, so that's further down on the agenda. So the next thing on the item, are there any other adjustments, by the way?
Oh.
Is that covered?
Okay.
You want to make changes? Okay, there being none, approve the minutes of Tuesday, August 18. And I know there are some adjustments there, so Elaine, fire away.
There were several things that we discussed that are not in the minutes at all. And one of the things was the discussion related to the athletic notice put in the advertiser. And we had some discussion about whether that was considered recruiting or not. There was some opinions, several opinions. I believe it's recruiting and should not be. We should never put another notice like that in the paper. And I believe Mr. Braun qualified it by saying that he recruits, and I insisted that that's an entirely separate thing when you go in the spring to feeder schools like Alexander or Princeton or anywhere else where kids have a choice and may come here potentially. That's an entirely different thing than going and asking kids to come join our athletic teams. I think they're quite different things than coming to be a student in our school. And I think the ad was wrong. That wasn't even in our minutes at all.
We discussed it in
Another thing that wasn't in our minutes at all is that we brought up,
Hang on a minute, Elaine.
Okay.
Let's get this resolved here first.
Tell me where we discussed it now.
it was at the end of the meeting before we adjourned.
But it, was
It's on the very-
discussed also that, if.
It's in, there's a little
It was also.
bit of that, the concern centers and the opportunity for Baileyville students to join teams, and that is there.
Mhm.
But my point is that we didn't have any mention of whether that is recruiting or not, and I believe that it is. It's not even mentioned in the notice here. It's right before AOS
I got it.
board members.
I got it.
And I think we took a general consensus, there was no action taken on it, but I think we all agreed that any advertisement for any position should be going through the central office. Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
Mhm.
It's right there.
That's-
Boards
that's
across
in
the
there.
future has
Yeah.
us go through the central
And that
office.
was a part of that
Yeah.
discussion, so.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
Yeah, we talked about a 5-year maintenance plan.
And I'm sure that we had a general consensus on that as well. I think most everyone agreed that that was a pretty good idea. I think that's enough to set in motion the process for that, for the facilities maintenance
Yeah.
managers to get that ball rolling. So I don't think there was any action necessary other than the general consensus. Anything else? We had also a discussion for the, is it the athletic eligibility waiver or is it the extracurricular eligibility waiver?
It's co-curricular.
Co-curricular, okay.
I can give you numbers if you'd like on how many kids have taken advantage of that.
Well, the only thing I had to add is that, first of all, it was an important discussion, first of all, and it was left out of the minutes, at least it should be mentioned that we did discuss that. But I'm remembering something that you said, Patty, that there's a lot of work left to be done as far as finalizing the thing, the
Yes.
actual policy.
Yes,
So is there a timeline on that?
not yet, there isn't.
There isn't? All right, and I think I also expressed an interest that some of us board members would like to be a part of that.
When I set the timeline, I'll mention it at a board meeting and have anybody that wants to be on
Yeah,
that committee.
okay, yeah, just wanted to make sure. This is all getting recorded in some way. And, I guess back to what Elaine brought up about the advertisement for students from other towns, that we also should put in place a policy of some sort that states that these students or these towns will be paying full cost for each of their students that come here, and that Baileyville will not incur any costs, within reason.
Explain it to me.
Well,
The state sets the tuition rate, we don't.
okay, however, isn't there costs for like transportation and uniforms and other things like that that would come into play?
That's a part of your tuition and part of your state aid. It's
Okay.
not fully funded by the state, but it is a part of your state formula.
All right, so anything, I guess, any additional monies that would come out of the Baileyville taxpayers, I would guess we should forward to the towns that the kids come from? Is that,
They're not attending this school. This is the recruiting that we're talking about. The 7th and 8th graders from Alexander.
Clear it up for me, because I'm lost.
The 7th and 8th graders from Alexander and
Okay.
Princeton and,
Takes another discussion, I guess, and you need to do some kind of a policy as to how you're going to charge, or what you're going to charge, for outside students to participate in grade 7, 8, high school, whatever it is, athletic programs. In other words, you're talking about the possibility of I'll pick on Alexander, an Alexander student who is not part of the AOS or part of the district coming here to participate. Is that,
Yeah.
am I hitting the right ball? So
Yeah, you got it.
the only way I could do that is to have Mr. Rogers sit down and give me an estimated cost, bring that to you and see if you feel that that's appropriate. Provide a board policy says that we're going to charge the individual or town, whichever, that particular cost for those students to participate.
Right. And the second part of that was that these students also had to comply with the eligibility requirements that the students,
Right.
the in-house students had to comply with. Because it wouldn't be fair to have some out-of-town student come in and displace a resident student.
Yeah, I gotta go back here. Students. First. Us and
Academic eligibility.
eligibility is good. Is a big one, is academic ability or participation. Got it.
All right.
Make something out of that.
All right. That's all I had for, okay, Patty, go ahead. Sorry.
Due to confidentiality, we cannot request grades from other schools.
That's what it was. We talked about this last
And
year,
the other
right?
point is that the junior high recruiting at the junior high level is not against MPA policy, it's only at the high school level.
All right, Jenny?
When it comes to eligibility, we do have sixth graders that participate in some of these seventh and eighth grade activities. They are not required currently to have the grade point average that the seventh and eighth graders have. Does that affect them as well? They can't play if they are not passing subjects?
Geez, I would say yes.
In the past, it has not had a variance on anything.
I'm sorry?
In the past, it has not
Yeah.
affected whether they played or not. They could not pass 3 or 4 subjects and still be allowed to play.
Yeah.
Whereas the seventh and eighth graders have to keep up with their grades.
Mhm. Well, I don't think that's a good idea, to be honest with you. Any more than I think it's a good idea for someone that's flunking 3 or 4 subjects up in Alexander or Indian Township to be able to come here and displace a resident student who's keeping his grades up, her grades up. I just don't think that's right. So, there might be some where we can work that out as a mutual agreement between the two towns or something like that. But I would certainly want that. That's high on my priority list.
Well, they may not be able to share it with us, as Pat said, because of the confidentiality, but they certainly could be asked to give us an idea whether or not they meet the eligibility. They could say yes or no. We have no way to follow up on it. We'd have to take the administrative word of whoever did that review.
And when we go to proficiency-based grading, if that school is not involved in proficiency-based grading yet, there's no way to compare their grading system to our grading system. Because we count assessments as 80% summative, informative is 20. That's all the kids are graded on. But in other schools, they're graded on homework, class participation. So the grading systems in the schools isn't even similar. So to say that you'll have the same expectation for all the kids, it's really a completely different.
Well, we'll have to work something out. That's something, I'm not gonna give up on this. We'll try to work something out so that we can, maintain some consistency with our programs here. Gwen?
I knew there was something, because we did talk about the grading thing last year, and I'm glad you brought that. That is a confidentiality thing, so we can't check on their grades. But, and even Michelle reiterated what I said, they do have sports programs in their own communities, so they get to play twice. And I like the idea of dropping it down and allowing our 5th and 6th graders, if we don't have enough for a 7th and 8th grade team, allowing our 5th and 6th graders a chance to play.
And that's already being done.
It is. Sixth
Yes.
graders mostly.
Yeah.
Is very young to play in a junior high sport. They're really outnumbered by older and bigger kids. We try not to get down to 5th grade if we
Yeah.
absolutely have.
It did happen one year, though.
Yeah.
I
We did
was
6th
coaching
graders
junior
last
high.
year in volleyball and soccer.
Had some excellent athletes in the lower grades, and it worked out well. So, as far as the eligibility thing, we'll have to work something out.
Oh.
I'm fairly adamant we can do
Similar.
something.
I can use some open language.
Because replacing our students with someone from out of town that's not carrying the workload is just isn't right to me. So, I guess we beat that to death for now. Anyone else have anything on the minutes that need to be added or deleted? Yeah.
Well, since we went into such detail on this discussion, I'll add that I also stated that if we can't field a team on our own, then skip the activity. There's so much involved in fixing rules and all of these other questions that come up when you're trying to get kids from other towns to come play on our teams that it gets too complicated. I think we just save the money by not even having the activity if we don't have enough kids to participate. I mean, you've got to mention it as a legitimate alternative to all the problems that we brought up.
Crystal?
You can if you want to, but if you got 4 kids, you only need one more to make a team, you're gonna let those 4 kids go without the sport just because you need one more kid? That's gonna be rough on them 4 kids that have to sit out a season because they can't bring in one more kid. You gotta think of the kids.
But I think what Elaine is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's in the event we cannot put a team together. We're not going to play with 4 people.
No, but you still need to be able to bring in kids from
Well,
other
yes,
towns.
but I think what she's saying is if you can't field enough players for the team, after exhausting all of your efforts of going down the lower grades or whatever.
I misunderstood, that's not what I heard.
Is that what I'm hearing, Elaine? Or?
That's not what I
Yeah,
heard.
it's logical
I mean-
to me. If
I
you
mean,
can't, if
don't
you
have-
can't get enough kids from your own town, and there's too many problems with checking their grades, and you know, all of this, everything else that's involved, if we can't deal with these kids the same way we deal with our own kids, and we don't have enough kids in our town to do the sport, then, or the activity, then just don't do it. And it may seem mean, but I really do think of the taxpayers in town and what they're paying for. And I don't think we should be expected to have these people pay for kids from other towns if we can't treat them the same as our kids.
It will all work out in the end. You can't let the kids go without, because they're just going to have that whole season to get in trouble, do anything, sport keeps them, it's,
Yeah, well, you know, we got 60-some town people here facing foreclosure. We've got some 80 that can't pay their sewer bills. You know, there comes a point when you got to think of the people that live in this town too and are funding this stuff.
All right, I guess that's further down the road for discussion, but they're all valid points, and at some point in the near future, hopefully we'll be able to set forth a policy that will hopefully keep everyone happy. All right, so motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, August 18th, 2015, as amended.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, August 18th, as amended.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to accept the minutes of August 18th, 2015. Any more discussion? All in favor? 5-0. All right. Communications and correspondence. We have 3 items. The AOS board meeting, the unsigned warrants from the previous meeting, and the MSBA training scheduled for September 23rd here at the school. So, what do you have for the AOS board meeting for information?
Well, you've got some agenda items that are included in the AOS board meeting on the 9th. It is at 6 p.m. at East Range School. Specifically, they have to do with some requirements that we need to sign off on for insurance purposes. And the other part, obviously, is a reorganization, because at this point, the AOS board needs both a chair and a vice chair. Warrants, they were in the orange folder here for you last week. They didn't get noticed or passed or something, so they're unsigned for a while, so there's a stack of those for you to do. And although we had scheduled a workshop, the executive director of MSBA was unable to attend tonight, even via, she ended up with another commitment, but she will be here, present, in person, which I thought would be a little better than via the Tandberg system. So she'll be here on the 23rd, it's Wednesday. We'll meet, we've got a board meeting on the 22nd, it's the next night, so you'll be here 2 nights in a row, unfortunately, 6 o'clock. And we'll just use a classroom. It'll be an announced meeting, although it'll be somewhat informal, it's a workshop.
What if you can't make it?
We'll try to keep good notes for you.
We could take the meeting, I suppose.
We could tape it as well, yeah. So I'm sure there'll be some good information. And certainly you'll have some good questions, I'm sure.
What time does it start?
6.
6.
Are all the committee members able to make that meeting
On the 23rd,
on the 23rd?
I believe so.
I am.
As far as I know. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure.
Hopefully Crystal can make it. All right, so that takes care of number 5, public participation, public comment. Is there anyone out there that would like to have 2 minutes to say, make a comment on anything on the agenda? Ms. McKibben.
This is in general, so I don't know if it's identified specifically, but one, I've been at the last 2 meetings, and it's been very difficult to hear any discussion at all. So I would like to request that everybody sitting around the table make an effort to project, so that those of us who are here can fully participate in hearing what you're saying. And secondly, just in general, I hear all too much about the cost of everything that you're being presented with. And I hear too little about the educational value and the needs for the kids. At the end of the last meeting, there was a discussion about what happened to the buildings, because there were cuts, and now they're filling all the holes. If you do that to the educational system and the kids, you're not going to fill those holes.
Does anyone else have a comment? Okay, there being none, public comment will be closed. 6:57. All right. I guess we have a superintendent's report.
Given the timing and everything, there wasn't a whole lot to report, so I didn't put together a written. I'll give you an oral report. We are obviously ready to open, and we've solved some problems. Interestingly enough, the principals in their reports will tell you a little bit about enrollments, but enrollments are up. And talking to the secretaries, they've been extremely busy, and for the first time in a long time, the elementary secretary reported to me that she actually had a line of parents waiting to enroll at one point in time. And it's been years since that's happened, so those are all good things, I guess. On the
Is the enrollment up in both schools or one?
both schools.
Both schools.
And they'll give you full numbers, although final numbers really won't be available until, I'm sure, second week of September, when things sort of level out and we find out who actually showed, who didn't show, and all of that kind of good stuff. We're prepared, as I said, to open. I have put in front of you the expense reports. I have a short written outline of what that looks like for you, and I'll do a follow-up on it at the next meeting, so you have an opportunity to review that. I think that was the request at the last meeting. Last but not least, I did want to report that we had a unfortunate accident on the other side of the district, and I'm sure you've seen it in the papers. We had a fourth grade student who lost her life, drowned in an accident with her parents on the Madamuscattus River. And things have gone well over there in that case, and they've been able to handle it. We brought the crisis team together, had a plan on Sunday, teachers in on Sunday, things ready to go. We held school on Monday. She also had a sibling who was in third grade. She was in fourth grade. Third grader was there. The day went very well today, and kids were well prepared to deal with it. I'm not sure the next step, obviously, will be the celebration of life, and it's expected to be on Thursday. We will be probably releasing a little early so that staff, bus drivers, and a few others can get their runs done and still be able to make it. So that's kind of where that's at. The good news, I guess, out of a terrible situation is the fact that all of our schools have good plans in place, and teachers are ready to take appropriate responses to any kinds of incidences that might occur. That's a very, very positive side of it for us. So,
What school was that?
that was at the Lee Wynn School.
I would suggest that we send a kind of sympathy to if they need. I know they're not known to us, but I think just as a show of compassion, I think a card would be forthcoming. And I guess somehow, should we all sign it, or what do you think would be appropriate? Have us all sign it, or just?
I can send it on behalf of the
On
board.
behalf of the,
Yeah.
okay, that way logistic part of it would be much easier, I was able to sign.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Okay, administrative reports.
I just passed mine along. Okay, when I talked with Bill earlier in the summer, we were down to 118 kids. And now we have 19 new kids that have registered, and our total is up to 137, which is getting there. As long as we maintain, that's a good thing. The teachers and I have come up with 2 goals that we would like. Can you hear me back there? Am I doing okay? Okay. We have 2 goals on which we would like to work for the remainder of the year. And as Patty has indicated, we are so into standards-based reporting and proficiency-based that we are jumping on board at the elementary level and hopefully we'll be able to collaborate with the high school and be on the same work load that they are on, and everybody has that same language to work with. We are also, at the elementary level, really need to look at our science and what we're doing in science, and we need to lay a foundation for those science concepts and practices and skills that every kid needs to know and be able to do in order to do better in science. And by the way, we did get our EMEA science results back. I won't share it with you because the parents haven't got it yet, but they're darn good. Opening day, ready, rearing to go. Building is clean and shiny, thanks to the custodians. Fire drills, staff meeting schedules have been placed, and everybody knows when those are going to happen. Those new teachers have been inducted, and they are eager to start. The after-school daycare program begins day 1 tomorrow. We will also have that available during our early dismissal days. We have scheduled open house for September the 24th. Hopefully, if you are out and about, come down and join us. I also would like to mention that we did not get a significant number of applicants for the art position. Pat and I and another teacher looked at the one. We got one. And I think I can mention that that person was from out of state. We decided it would be best to have a long-term sub in that position for the year. We're so fortunate we were able to get Sierra Crow. She has had 4 years of art training in Machias. She's done praxis number 1, and she has been scheduled to do the second practice soon. And she has to do her student teaching, and she will be a certified teacher. Hopefully her advisor, the state, will allow her to consider what she's doing now as part of her student teaching.
How about the gifted and talented part?
The gifted and talented part, as an administrator, I'm going to have to take on that role for now. I don't know where I'm going to fit it in, guys, but in order for us to get that subsidy, I am allowed to do that. It definitely, I don't know where it's going to fit in. Right, Mr. Braun?
Correct.
Are there people to help you with that gifted and talented? Because
No,
that's a big plus.
You have to be certified in gifted and talented. No, there isn't.
Is somebody going to be able to pick up the slack in Title I, do you think?
I'm not going to be able to do any less work in Title I because I'm obligated. They pay me the salary to do that. I cannot justify not doing my work there.
Can you make the plans for the gifted and talented and have,
You can't
a
hear.
way to do that?
I can make some plans for her, and she will do the best she can. There are a couple of workshops that are coming up. Hopefully she'll be able to attend those and get some help in that area, but it's something that we really need to work on through the year.
I'm sorry, I was asking her if Mrs. Smith could do the plans for the gifted and talented and have the art teacher do those, you know, like overseeing her.
There's also an application process that we have to do on a yearly basis. I will have to do that at visit me at midnight.
So if some of these kids that are in gifted and talented are not gifted in art and can only draw stick figures, are there are there other options for the gifted and talented kids that can, you know, that might be gifted in music or gifted in math, or are there other options that might be available to them?
Do the art, absolutely. We do the literacy. We do other content areas. I would have to go back and review what she actually did before I can answer that accurately.
Okay.
Yeah, it just isn't stationed at Hart.
Okay.
I think Shauna did math
Yeah,
when she was in elementary school in the gifted.
yeah.
She did math.
Does that conclude your report?
That does. Any more questions?
I just have one more question. The young lady you were talking about, and if they do let her do her student teaching, would she be interested in doing the gifted and talented next year if she
Well,
stays?
we have to put that out again for
Okay.
people to apply for that position.
Okay.
And if she would like to do that, she would have to apply too, because right now she's a substitute.
Gotcha. Got that. Okay.
Well, is this is this continually advertised, or did we just
Yes,
put
we
in it?
re-advertised it again.
We did, yep,
Yes.
yep. So, how do you do that?
Chrissy advertised it through
ServingSchools.com.
ServingSchools.com. And the last time we had to advertise for an art teacher, I think we might have 3 tops. But I was shocked that we didn't get more. It's not there.
It's the time of year, probably.
Yeah, it was late in the year too.
There are a lot of schools advertising for teachers and stuff even right now, I notice in Washington County. So it's tight.
Any more questions, comments from the board? Hey, Patty?
Fall sports have started. The numbers for girls is still kind of low but adequate. It's 12, the number for volleyball and boys soccer, though I believe is in the 20s. And looking at the opportunity that we've offered kids, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 students who have taken advantage of the fresh start. They will be starting in academic study hall tomorrow night, their first day of school. The academic study hall will allow them no absences for the 4 weeks unless it is a doctor's appointment or they're out sick or something like that. And Mr. Knowles will be running that. We still have several co-curricular activity openings: academic decathlon, drama, student council, junior high softball, tennis, grade 9 advisor, and JV boys basketball, and I'm not even sure that I got them all. With Dylan and Letitia leaving, Dylan did most of the junior high sports. Letitia did the tennis, so with her leaving, that left that there, and with Miss Perry leaving, that additionally left that there. I attached our proficiency-based department meeting conversations. Again, I gave them to you last week, but we really weren't given the opportunity to bring attention to them, so I thought in my report tonight I'd bring attention to them. This is what the Department of Education requires for us to be considered a proficiency-based school. We have to do these things. We don't have choices about that. A lot of this work has been done already. There was a survey this summer where I had to get on and answer each of those questions and where we were in that and what proof I had to say that we were in that place. So I really encourage you to read through that thoroughly and understand and ask questions. If there's things on it that you don't understand, you don't know what they mean, ask questions and we'll try to explain it to you as best we can. But remember that this is new for us. We're going through it as best we can by asking questions of the DOE and other schools that have already jumped on to proficiency-based learning. And we have to have this in place by the fall of next school year. We do not have a choice not to do that. I'll be bringing policies to you. In fact, I'll introduce a couple at the next meeting for a first reading. We do have a committee that is helping to draft the policies, and of course, we're taking advice from Great Maine Schools and the Maine school board policy. They're giving a lot of draft policies that we're just changing language in and making our own, which we're allowed to do with that. Orientation day was today. It went great. It was nice and quiet in the school. They all come in brand new and they're kind of quiet and whatnot, but they went through the lunch, they went through everything, they did some activities out in the gym to get to know each other, which went really well, and I saw all kids involved in those. I didn't see any that sat back and didn't get involved, and we usually do have some that do that, but we didn't. So tomorrow we start fresh. We've enrolled 8 new students. We have 3 that went to grade 8, 1 to grade 9, 2 to grade 10, and 2 seniors. 3 of those students are tuition students, the remainder are Baileyville students, and at this time we've had 4 withdrawals. So we're up 4. I hope you take time to look around the school. The custodians have done a fantastic job. The school is looking wonderful, and if you see one of them, tell them thanks for all the hard work they do. I mean, you should see them in here in the summer. The water's running right off of them, and they're plugging away anyway. I have attached to your report, a list of key holders, as Elaine requested at the last meeting that I do.
Gwen requested.
And there's just an idea of some upcoming events that we have going on. That's all I have.
Gwen requested that.
It was me.
Oh, Gwen requested it. But it's attached to your paper anyway.
The event, what are the events?
Grade 7, 8 tech night, that's the night that the 7th and 8th graders.
It's down the bottom here.
On the front page.
Oh, okay, back on the front page.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna read it to you, I
Okay.
forgot you guys to read it for yourself.
Gotcha, all right, I can read. Thanks. Anyone have any questions? Bill?
Who's going to Kiev?
We're not going, they're coming to us, and we're using Gear Up funds to fund that.
That is it, 7th and 8th grade?
Yeah, 7th and 8th grade.
What's it take to get a key? To,
Well, you have to be participating in an activity that isn't typically during school hours, in order to get a key. That's what you gotta do. And like Betty Newman, she's the cook. She gets here at 5:30 in the morning. She needs a key. Keith Moody is phys ed teacher. He needs a key to the door to get into his gym. John Rogers, that's self-explanatory.
I get all that, I was just curious as to,
You have to.
I thought Sheridan Smith had a key, and I
He
just
did,
wondered
but he
what-
doesn't have a key anymore.
He doesn't?
No,
He
he
got
had
it
a
back?
key when he was doing
The
the
basketball or?
basketball team, but he does not have a key anymore.
We had a concern with that last year, that there were so many keys out, that we suggested that after each sport that was going on, they be all collected.
Yeah, and I just haven't got to, I mean, school just started, I haven't got to Arnold and Ben to get theirs back from summer school, but, because they did a summer league, so that's why they have keys.
So,
Thank you, Patty.
One of our previous meetings, I'm not sure which one, but maybe a couple of previous meetings, we had some discussion on the agenda and when it would be submitted, available to the public and the board members. And I thought that we came up with a policy that it was going to be available a week ahead of time. I got the agenda a week ahead of time, but most of the stuff that's on this agenda tonight, or not most of it, a good part of it, I received tonight. So we're back to where we were before when we were getting the information and put in front of us the night of the meeting, so we really don't have a chance to read it over and give you guys a call.
That's the way we've
and
always done it. We just,
That has changed.
I-
You were here, I
we-
think.
Yes, but I didn't know that you wanted administrative reports. I just knew you wanted the agenda 10 minutes a week before. Nobody said to us, you're gonna have administrative, we haven't had administrative reports for 6 months. This is the first time they've been on there in probably 6 months.
Well, apparently, I think there needs to be some additional comments made on this. It doesn't really do much good for us to get an agenda a week ahead of time if none of the material that we're going to be discussing on the agenda isn't with it. Does that make sense to anybody, or am I just
Just
way off?
ask, I don't have a problem doing it.
Well, I thought we were very clear on that the last couple of meetings when we talked about this.
It makes perfect sense. However, most of what you've got tonight for reports, you would have gotten 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
Because it just happened. If you read through it, this stuff is just occurring. We can try to keep you up with what's happening and keep you up to date, or we can delay you a month and you'll hear something on the street long before we report it.
It's a month now?
Well, if I sent these out next week for the week after, and these things have to do with just the last few days for the most part. GT teacher, substitute, that's all happened within the last 5 days. Then you'd be 3 weeks before you saw what was 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
I don't, you know, we can write reports and then give you some additional oral information to try and keep you up to date, but you're going to be in the same place. You're not going to have it written.
As long as we understand or are fully aware that when we get the reports, we know that it's going to be already history and not, you know, we get that. We get that, Bill. But I get the feeling that we've got some sort of a miscommunication here on what the board wants. And what the board wants, my understanding from the last meeting, and it was a 5-0 consensus, that this agenda was going to be presented to us a week in advance. And anything that was going to be discussed would be handed along with that. Because it was made very clear that it doesn't make any sense for us to get this information the night of the meeting when we got a whole agenda ahead of us, and now we got to sit here and read a report and then not have a chance to digest it. Because, you know, me being average intelligence, you know, needs time to do this. And I'm speaking for myself. But I thought it was crystal clear on everything. So when?
I've been on the board for 2 years, and the principal's reports have always come the night of. And they do a pretty good job, you know, making sure that we have the information written. But like you, Andy, I don't like any surprises either.
Well, it's just hard to make a decision when you have something thrown at you the night of the meeting.
Yeah.
And granted, principal reports aren't full of information where we really have to make any sort of critical decisions. I get that. But there might be some information in there that we'd like to look into prior to the meeting so that we can either avoid the questions at the meeting because we find out ahead of time and
I don't have
cut
a
the
problem.
time. But okay, well, I was
you'll
just
have
curious as
my
to whether
report
we
in
didn't make ourselves very clear, or
No, you
if-
didn't.
okay. So, well, when I say crystal clear and someone shakes their head, yeah, I guess that means they fully understand.
No, I'm just, if you want it that way, we can do it that way.
Okay,
But
yes, but hang on a
unfortunately,
minute.
I just wanted to explain that it's not going to be brand new stuff.
Yeah, we understand that. Very rarely do we get brand new stuff. Just shy of an emergency. I'm not opposed to reading history, especially if I have an opportunity to ask people that are writing the reports questions ahead of the meeting. So maybe we can avoid conversations like this and cut the meeting minutes down. But, and I thought we were all in general consensus of that, but I'm guessing Yes,
You
Crystal?
said you wanted the agenda, you didn't say you wanted other reports to go along with it.
Well-
So obviously you weren't crystal clear.
Okay, so, all right. I was crystal clear in my own mind, but I guess I would ask the question, what sense does it make to have an agenda if there's none of the material that's going to be discussed with it? A week ahead of time, or a month ahead of time. Does that make sense to you? Does it make sense to anybody? All right, well, doesn't me either.
I think,
Well,
So,
I would understand that you need as much information as you can on action items that you're going to try to make a decision on at that meeting, and have plenty of time to review it, think it through, investigate, do whatever you need to do. But if it's a report, and it's not asking for action, I guess I don't
all right.
fully understand.
But reports typically should contain, critical information or important information.
And if
And
it
there may
is,
be some questions arise
right,
somewhere down that report that I might have, that I might be able to ask Patty ahead of, or Jane, or you, or anybody, well in advance of the meeting, so that we don't have to go through this every meeting.
that's fine. But what I'm saying is, and if there was an item in a report that deserved action, certainly it could be set for the next agenda process. But you can have it either way, it's your discretion.
Oh, I'm going to throw this back out to the other board members again and make sure that we get this crystal clear. Are we all in agreement that we want agendas a week ahead of time, a week in advance? We all in agreement, Crystal?
yes.
You in agreement? You are. Okay. So that's
I
a
guess
general consensus.
agendas
Now,
and supporting information.
on those agendas, do we want the information to accompany whatever is on the agenda to be discussed that 1 week in advance? I, for one, do. Does everyone else agree with that?
Yes, I think what you were saying earlier was, we had a discussion last time because of the whole sport thing about giving a free whatever. And we were given a great deal of information that night. And one of my comments was, I'd like to have it so I could read it instead of giving, I don't know, there was like 10 pieces of paper here. But I think that the girls here, the principals, theirs is fine, I think. But anything else that's of any length that we've got to really discuss, I'd like to have when I get my agenda, so I
Right,
can
and-
read it.
And I'm going to take it one step further, just for the sake of argument, that it shouldn't be on the agenda if it's not in the packet. We can wait till the next meeting, unless it's, a boil blows up or something of that nature. But if we can't get it in advance with the agenda, then save it till the next meeting, unless it's critical, and then, it can come under, other, or something. But getting expense reports the night of the meeting doesn't do me a bit of good. I'm particularly slow when it comes to these expense reports.
That's why I didn't discuss it,
So-
not having it, I gave them to you so that you'd
Right.
have them. We just printed them, as you know, when you came in the office. You came in, she was just doing those. Obviously, they couldn't have gone out prior to that with the information. Wanted you to have them in advance, you got 2 weeks to review them, questions we can answer at that point in time.
Perfect. Mrs. Smith.
Have a question focused on you, Glenn. You scored patent our reports as being pretty good. I'm a high achiever. What can I do to make my reports even better?
No, I think that you guys come as close to current as possible. And I was just saying that, for the past 2 years, we have always had the principal reports as they were done. And I think you do a very good job at getting them in. And not to stray from I don't know if there's anything you can do unless, like Andy said, it's an emergency, it needs to be taken care of ahead of time.
You know, I have no problems if that's what the decision of the board is, to have them in prior to the meeting. I will do that, but I just want to make sure what I present to you is high quality. Yes.
I have a very small suggestion for both of you.
Thank you.
Could you put your school, like Woodland High School or Woodland Elementary School,
used
and
to
your
do
name
that.
on the top?
Yes.
Because I have to start reading it to figure out which
Who it
one of
is.
you has handed it to me.
I usually do
She's just-
that, and I
she-
didn't
she-
today.
they
Thank
both
you.
usually do that,
That will
actually.
happen in the
Yeah,
future.
I mean, it's not a big thing at all, but it helps.
It's nice to
Just-
know.
I do see something, though, in Patty's report that might need action.
What?
The openings that we have for co-curricular activities.
Well, they don't need any action yet because
I'm sorry, I'm not with you. Where are you?
nobody's asked,
It's the second
nobody's
bullet.
applied for them.
Okay.
Oh, several
Okay.
So there's
openings.
Do you have them
Name
in-house?
you aware.
Okay, do you have them in-house advertised?
Yes, they are
Okay.
in-house advertised, they
Um,
went out in an email to the teachers this morning, and nobody's applied for anything yet, so there is no action.
Okay.
When there is, I'll let you know.
Okay. And, because we don't have to worry too much about softball and tennis until spring. Basketball, we don't have to worry about till next month. I think that about covers it. Oh, substitutes. How are we doing for substitutes?
Terrible.
We need to put an ad out.
3.
Do we have to?
Mhm.
So we need to put an ad out for substitutes.
That would be simple.
And substitute bus drivers might be another thing that we might need. Bill?
Yeah.
All right. You all done with the principal reports? Excellent. Old
So
business.
you do want them in the packet, is
Yes.
that my understanding?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
And one more question.
Sure.
We report once a month, not,
That's good. Not every
Yep.
meeting.
thank you.
Yep.
That's crystal clear.
Glad to hear it. All right, under old business, we have the job descriptions, and I had added something. I guess I didn't mention it at the beginning of the meeting. No, before we do the job descriptions, I wanted to see what the general consensus of the other board members were about this ALS withdrawal process. I think it's something that we should look into, if we're going to look into it, something that we should do immediately, as far as, I would like to see a step-by-step process that would guide us from, point A to point Z. Right now, Bill has provided information, and we've done some information gathering on our own, but there's a lot out there. There's a lot involved with this, so I would go so far as to get maybe someone here to meet with us, and kind of explain the process, and get a committee organized. Maybe we need some local residents on this committee. It is going to have to go to referendum at the end of the day, but maybe we can find out beforehand that it's not what we want. And I think we should have organize a committee of residents and parents. They don't all have to be parents, just taxpayers, parents, school personnel, whoever wants to be on the committee. Get a step-by-step process via the Department of Education, or Main School Management, whoever, everyone, so that we have a guide to go by, and we can set up timelines as such. I guess one of the most important things we're going to have to establish is a cost, because if it's cost prohibitive, when we find that out right from the get-go, then we might be able to save ourselves some meeting evenings. And if we decide to go forward with it, be prepared to put it to public hearing and vote by February 2016, if we get that far. That's what I would like to see, if we're gonna follow through with this. So, what say you?
I say we ought to get somebody from DOE or Maine School Board Management and let us know what it's going to involve. I know that we have to notify the other schools in the AOS that we're looking into this.
Well, I guess what I'm looking for right now is just, are we gonna do it or are we not? The details, I guess, would come later down the road, Gwen, but I just need to know if we're beating a dead horse. I'm getting a lot of comments about it, some in favor and some not, so, but neither one is a majority at this point. But everyone that I've talked to agrees that it's worth looking into. That's pretty much unanimous that way. Whether or not it's going to be for Baileyville is yet to be discovered, I suppose. So, I'm just looking for a general consensus from the other board members. Is this what we want to do? We want to move forward and organize a committee and get in touch with the necessary agencies and get along? Or
I think we should look into it.
It's not going to cost us anything to look into it.
Didn't they look into this once before?
I'm not sure, Crystal. Bill, do you know?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure Sheridan told me that they had looked into this once before. They had the committee and the whole 9 yards.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't know anything about it, Diane?
I know that there was a lot of talk about it at one time. I don't know what
That's about all it was
proceeded
talk,
from
though,
there.
right?
They really didn't delve into it to a great extent.
I was
think we're
told
obligated to
I was
do
told
that.
they went as far as what the cost and stuff, and
Yeah, they did find
and that it wasn't really cost effective, so they didn't go forward with the deep depth part of it. So why go through it all over again to find out the same information? That's a lot of
Well, yeah, I
time.
would agree with that, I suppose, if it was something that was done recent, and also if I could see those figures, facts and figures of what they discovered, because it might probably save us some footwork. But until then.
So they must have record of it, though, if they went through it, right?
Well, nobody seems to know about it, but, someone can dig in the archives, see what's there.
Just a question, that's what I heard,
No,
that's what I was
that's a
told.
valid point. I mean, there's no sense to reinvent the wheel if it's already been done recently. I mean, if it was done 4 or 5 years ago, then I think it needs to be revisited. But
No,
it
I
was
thought he
done.
said it was like last year, or the
Really?
year before.
Yeah,
It was
it's not
recently.
that long ago.
Well, if you were still on the board then.
No, I was still on the board then. Darren brought it up, and we felt that because of the timing wasn't right. Darren was the one that was in favor of it. He brought it up one meeting, and nobody ever followed through on it. This has been in the past 2 years.
Yeah. Well, even such, if there is information out there that we can look at that would help us make that decision, that would be great. But, go ahead.
I think we need to know what questions to ask, and we need documentation from the accounts and what we've spent on things. And luckily, we've got an AOS meeting coming up. Maybe we can get our people to ask to coordinate with some other people and find out about funding in other communities too. We know what our AOS agreement is, that we can withdraw. We aren't
Right.
ironclad locked in to this. We have a sample separation agreement from another community that is somewhat similar. So we have an example of how it can be written. But we really need to know what financial information to ask for. That's where we really need help.
And I think that's where that person from DOE or MSMA is going to come in
Yep.
handy, someone that has experience doing that. But I would say, for now, just to move forward until we hit hit a wall where everything says no.
I think we should move forward. It's not gonna, the only thing it's gonna cost us right now is time.
Time.
And get, like you said, pull a committee together from the community, parents, teachers.
Yeah, that's, you know, the big thing is, the big thing would be get some residents, just taxpayers, not necessarily parents. But get them both, get residents and parents. Because I think their input would be valuable, as everyone's will be. All right, so,
Dr. McHugh has a question.
yes, Mr. McKee.
May I have a very brief statement as to what the origin of this particular, why are you doing this?
I'm only speaking for myself here, but I thought that the situation that we have been in for several years, where we've had a part-time administrator within the system, that there have been some areas that have been, well, for lack of a better term, neglected, or not served as best could be, only because that the person, whoever it was, and we've had several, only because that person hadn't been here very often, is only maybe here a day or two a week, and that really doesn't give that person time to take care of everything that needs to be taken care of within the system. Now, Mr. Braun has said that he is our financial expert, and I wouldn't disagree with that. But what I do disagree with is that, or what I also agree with is that there are some things that need to be monitored more often, more frequently than what they are now, and it's utterly impossible for Mr. Braun to do that. So I feel that having someone withdrawing from the AOS and getting a full-time person, or maybe even a half-time and share with another community in line would be more beneficial. It would relieve a lot of the responsibilities of the school board, or our perceived responsibilities, and I think it would create more of a well-oiled machine. Yes.
Is it correct then that this is your initiative?
Well, from what I am gathering from the other board members, Mr. McHugh, that there are others that feel that same way. I think Becky and
I agree.
Elaine and Glenn are interested in finding out if it's feasible or not to go this route. So, Crystal, no, Crystal's not. So, I have a majority of the board members that feel that this should at least be looked into.
Yeah. Two former board members spoke to me and said they believe that we should withdraw from the AOS, and I'm not going to name them, but they were on the board for a considerable length of time and felt this way also.
I'm only asking a question.
Yeah. And until it starts costing us buku bucks to understand what's involved with this, I say that we move forward with it and see if it is what's best suited for Baileyville.
And one of the board members that spoke to me about this was a board member who helped organize the AOS. And after seeing how it worked for a number of years, felt that we should be out of it.
When?
I think that if our kids are going to benefit from this, and I think that's our number one concern, is that they're taken care of and given better. I think all it's going to cost us is time to do this right now.
And I feel that if we're willing to put in the time to investigate, and all we're going to do is present the information, then it isn't up to us that we get out of this AOS. It's a public vote. It will not be us who decide that issue.
I am not questioning any of that, I just wanted to find out where it's.
Why? Yeah, that's why.
So I guess,
Andy,
yes, dear.
I suggest that before you do anything, you go back and look, if it's only 2 years ago, look at what the previous board did, see how much research they did, how far they got into it before you make any big moves, and see how far they got and what they found out. Do that first, and then go on with your investigation.
And I think we agreed with that earlier.
There wasn't any 2 years ago.
But, well, we gotta look at least, I mean, we gotta look. And-
There wasn't any.
and I'm with-
Just find
We
out.
gotta look to see what's out there. But doesn't really matter who says it was done or who says it wasn't done. It's our responsibility to look and see, so we don't reinvent the wheel, see what's out there, and then move on. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. I guess what we have to do now so that we don't wait another month before we, is who's gonna organize the meetings and who's gonna recruit, I hate that word, who's going to ask the residents and the parents and everyone to be on the committee. Now, do you think we should advertise in the paper? I mean, that'd be the efficient way. It's expensive, but it's more efficient and we can all spread it around word of mouth.
Yep.
And I say the more the merrier. I don't think there's any kind of a limit of the number of people that can be on this committee. Because the more input we have is clearly going
I think would help.
to help more than hinder.
We might even have some volunteers for finding out information.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to have, I mean, I can contribute some time to this, but we're going to need someone that's
Gonna
you know,
put some time
put
into
some
it.
time in and do some legwork and all of that. I mean, we can all contribute something. But. So, I guess the first direction is to put an ad in the paper. Anyone?
Set a date for the meeting, same time.
Well, we're going to have a contact person. I would guess that we'd go through the central office. Would you agree with that, Bill?
Yeah.
Asked for ambitious volunteers to, what are we going to call this?
Ask for people to come to a meeting if they're interested in Baileyville withdrawing from the AOS, an organizational meeting.
Okay. I can, you're in next Monday?
Yes. Well, Tuesday, actually, Monday's a holiday.
Oh, that's right. So next Tuesday soon enough? Or?
Yep.
Get on it?
You won't get it in the paper.
It won't be in the
No, it won't
paper.
get in the
No.
advertiser.
Won't get in,
So, okay, so
won't get in.
We'd have to go for,
won't get in the week after either, unless we can
if we put it
contact
for
it
the,
this week.
if we put it in the paper
right.
and then say the meeting is gonna be like a week later, maybe possibly at the end of September. I don't have a calendar with me.
Mhm.
Just so happens.
So we could conceivably have the ad in the paper next week, if they're contacted sometime this week. And we want to run it for 1 week, 2 weeks,
I'd run it for 1 week.
see what we get after 1 week. It's expensive to, all right, so that will come out, that will be out in, it'll be out September 9th. Is when people will lay eyes on that for the first time.
And when would we say the meeting would be?
Well, let's find a date that all of us can be there.
Mr. Knowles has a question.
don't forget the crow line.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. So what's everyone's schedule? The paper will be out on Wednesday, September 9th. And we could set up a meeting for the following Wednesday.
And that's when you've got your workshop, 23rd.
No, the following Wednesday will be the 16th.
16th, I'm not available. You can do it, I just won't be available.
Well,
Having a little procedure.
it will be I mean, it's important that you're there, but I think this is an organizational meeting. Do you want to be there? Do you want us to work it on your schedule?
I'd love to be there, but
Okay, when
if
can you be
can't,
there?
the 16th, I've got a rather important,
What about
important date.
15th?
15th, I can't, no. I'm gonna be taking a medication that won't allow me to drive between here and
You might want to
Bangor.
That might be the day we want.
Some things that need to be confidential.
You could be entertaining.
Very.
Well, how does the 21st sound? That means we'll have a meeting
21st,
Tuesday,
22nd,
Monday, Tuesday, and
23rd.
Wednesday. Sweet. All right, so Tuesday's the regular board meeting, so why don't we schedule it for then? Just have people come to the regular board meeting. Does that make sense?
I thought we met every other week. We don't.
32.
Well, if we're meeting today, it would be the 15th.
No, it's
No.
first and third.
First and third, that's right. First and third Tuesday.
Yep, have them show
Okay,
up
so
at
that
the
would be the
meeting
Alright.
and put it on the agenda.
All right.
Well, we moved to the 22nd.
Dave, don't forget the paperwork.
Okay, so,
I mean, you can do it on 15th, and
Bless
you
you.
can hold the 22nd for the other, but, as I said, I wouldn't be present with you that evening.
so does that mean that the one that should have been on the 29th isn't gonna happen?
29th?
No.
Yeah, if you go every other week.
No, the 29th, we do
First
first
and
and third,
third.
basically. The
All right.
29th, I will be in MSAB 30 doing a board meeting.
Okay, so it's going to be on the 22nd.
Yes.
Everybody here can get the word out. Is anybody interested?
Just
Is
throw
it
it on
gonna be
Facebook.
before the meeting?
Yeah, it'll be
or is it
before.
the agenda item on the, so it's before the board meeting?
Well, we could actually have it as an agenda item, right?
Yep,
That
don't
makes
forget to
sense.
put it on the agenda.
All right.
And make sure there's
Right, but is
paperwork
the-
to go with it.
Is the public gonna be able to share opinions on it if it's a agenda item?
For that one, they will.
Round up the troops, Patty. Bring them in.
So, help me now. On the 22nd, we're gonna have a meeting. I'm gonna post it, send out, looking for interested people to attend, and also indicate that there'll be a regular board meeting. Agenda item is gonna be withdrawal, correct?
Yep, that'll probably be the first one, right? First thing we take up.
Well, short
Short
of
of
pledge
everything
and
else.
adjustments
Yeah.
and whatever else.
Yeah.
And what information, what do you need for that meeting? Are we just going to take comments, input?
No, we're just gonna, it's gonna be an organizational meeting. The school committee is trying to get volunteers to form a committee to see.
To
whether the-
research.
To see whether the feasibility of withdrawing from the AOS is gonna work for Baileyville. And we're just looking for volunteers. Doesn't really have to be any kind of a discussion at that night.
Okay,
Just
that was what I was
get some
asking.
people
What
to
did
sign
you
up,
want me to prepare for
And
that
then
night?
we can, if anybody shows up or signs up, then we can set a date for a meeting after that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's,
as far as,
that's simple. I don't think that's an issue at all.
we don't know enough about it to really have any more discussions.
Do you only want people that are interested in withdrawing?
No, 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 no,
Or
no,
do you
no.
want anybody?
To see whether it's feasible to withdraw. Or use any kind of adjective you want, see if it's beneficial to the,
To work on, to
Community.
work on.
To
a-
work on
to work
finding out
on
information.
Right.
Gaining
I think is what we
information.
need. We don't even, like I said, we don't even know what questions to ask.
because we do have an agenda, our regular agenda, as far as the school board committee
Yeah.
meeting. So can we put a time frame on
Oh,
that meeting?
absolutely. Shorter the better.
Thank you.
So yeah, so that's all that's gonna happen that night is sign people up.
Okay.
And then they can move forward with getting more people, or less people. I assume some board members are gonna wanna be on there, and hopefully some administrators, and teaching instructors, or whoever. If we get a bunch. We'll see. Alright, so, under old business, job descriptions. We have, under review tonight, 3. Where are they? It would be the high school principal, the high school guidance counselor, and the co-curricular activities director. And just for informational purposes, in meetings past, there's seems to have been some confusion on behalf of the board members and the employees of the school system as to what any particular job description, whether it even existed or which one existed. There was a duplicate in one case. So the board thought that it might be appropriate that while we're at it, we'll do them all. We'll revise them. I don't know when the last time was that they were revised, but I'm sure it's been a while. And the board thought that while we're doing the one that, or two that were under scrutiny, that we might as well do them all. Get them updated, make any changes, deletions, additions, whatever. So that's why we're here tonight doing this. So the first one would be the co-curricular activities director. Let me find that first.
Can I add a little information on this,
On what?
job description?
Which one?
This,
The co-curricular?
the current one was revised in 2011.
13. Isn't it?
It was never approved. It was just revised.
Yeah.
But it was never approved. So,
Right.
2012.
It is recommended by main school management that they be done every 3 years, be updated every 3 years. So, as far as the co-curricular activities
It's revised
director's
2000.
job, it's been
Yeah, but you had it
Almost.
front in 2012, and they never acted on it.
Yeah, they never acted on it.
a bit more organized.
It says
Yeah,
review
there we go.
2009.
Yeah.
They looked at it 2012, but didn't look at it and didn't do anything. They just
Which one was it? 2013. What's your record?
It was
say?
2012 that it was revised.
You have, what do you have?
Well, this said it was revised 2000 and reviewed 2008,
Yeah.
but when we looked at the minutes, it said that it was revised July 10th, 2012, but it was never voted upon.
So it doesn't appear on the job description, it was never accepted, not voted, not accepted.
So
Right.
the one that's actually in effect is this one we have here,
You,
2008.
2008.
Yep.
2008. So it is time, if we believe Maine School Management in their every 3-year suggestion. All right, so. Where do we start?
We've cut, or I guess there is non-existent co-curricular activities in the student activities or athletics director's position now. There's approximately 12 activities that are no longer in existence.
What are those?
Oh, thank you.
They haven't been in existence the whole time. They have been for probably 20, 15 years, as long as I've been here.
You speaking about like the golf and the chess club and
Golf was eliminated, I think that was John's first year here. And the other, the junior high cheering, stuff like that, we never filled those positions. But it was our understanding that that was contractual because it was in the contract.
Mhm.
And I can't just go in and say, oh, we're gonna eliminate that. That's contractual, it has to be agreed upon by the union, and they have to do that. I can't just go in. I know there was a comment made that, you know, that we were just leaving them in there for money. We're not. Contractually, I cannot cut anything from the contract.
Without an agreement,
Right.
signed agreement.
Are you talking stipended positions as well?
Stipended positions as well, they're in the contract.
Am I correct in assuming that if we don't raise the money for it, that the jobs disappear, those positions disappear?
Don't disappear from the contract, they are not funded, you do not hire anyone. They stay as open positions in the contract, not filled.
Not filled, okay. Gotcha.
So it wasn't just us trying to save money.
Right,
We can't do that.
yeah, okay, thanks. All right, so, anybody have any notes on the coordinated student activities? I can't find my notes. Bunch of them.
Then, 1 and 2, performance responsibilities, 1 and 2 seem to be okay. Provides with cooperation of the administrators a unified and coordinated program of extracurricular activities, both athletic and co-curricular, that include a mission statement, coaching, advisor philosophy, and expectations outlined in specific job descriptions. And 2 is organizes and administers the program of interscholastic athletics and co-curricular activities for Woodland Junior and Senior High School. Those 2 seem to be okay as written.
I don't have that, whatever you have.
What's the year on yours?
It's a 2008, I think. Yep.
Oh.
It was revised 2000, spring 2008.
Number 3, organizes and coordinates an intramural program for all students to help them develop skills and the enjoyment of the sport. Is that in existence as we speak?
Not as a job for the coordinator of student activities. It never has been.
It never has been what?
The athletic director, and I can think back as far as when I was athletic director, has never coordinated an intramural program. We've had one for the last couple of years, but that's through funding other than school funding. That's through a
Right.
grant.
That's through the intramural program grant or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
we had a grant for that.
So if we
Does
do,
that happen every year, that grant?
No. Actually, I believe last year may have been the last year of the grant, and we're going to discontinue it because we didn't get kids. We got
There's
very
no
few.
participation? When was it held anyway? I was curious. 'Cause of-
In between sports seasons.
Oh, okay, but
And we even
like,
tried,
like in the gym,
Yeah.
like during lunchtime, I mean, that'd
No,
be
after
impossible.
school.
After school, okay.
yeah,
And we even tried doing it during the sports season so that the athletes wouldn't be involved, and maybe kids who weren't athletes would come out and get more involved, but we had very little involvement.
So is it your recommendation that we totally just take this out of
Yes.
the job description?
Yep.
Is that, anyone concur with that on the board members?
If it's non-existent.
Okay. Making progress. Why is this one so long?
I think,
Works with school administrators to delineate and update job descriptions for coaches and advisors. Yea or nay?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Assumes the responsibility with the school level administrators for making recommendations to the superintendent for the selection, assignment, and evaluation of athletic coaches and advisors.
Yes.
Assist school administrators in the development of and places into operation appropriate rules and regulations governing the conduct of athletic and co-curricular activities.
Definitely.
Back on number 5.
Back to number 5, yeah?
We could cut that up a little bit, because we, on the board, have already started to do this, checking on the evaluations of coaches, and if we're going to continue to do that, and the advisors. These evaluations need to be done because they are stipulated in the contract. So we could separate this and say the evaluation of athletic coaches and advisors will be completed per the contract. Because there's a section right there in that part where we have the listing of all the activities, and the next page stipulates that they're supposed to get feedback on their performance midway through the season or the activity. And if they have anything that they're doing that is unsatisfactory, they are given specific directions to correct that.
What number you at, Lane?
Back on 5.
Oh, you're in the contract, okay.
And
Article 5?
I'm referring
Yep,
to what it
gotcha.
says in the contract
Yep.
in relation to doing their evaluations. And
Do you know if that's being done?
They do receive feedback throughout the entire season. It's not just halfway through. Evaluations have not been done consistently. They need to be done consistently. We
Yeah.
talked about that a couple meetings ago.
Yes.
And John is right on top of that, as well as the providing a feedback system for parents and students.
Now, when you had that conversation with him, was it agreed upon that he was gonna do a mid-season evaluation and then an end of the
No,
season?
he doesn't have to do a mid-season evaluation. He just, it's only if he has to let coaches know if they have a problem. We've never done an evaluation mid-season unless a coach is, we're looking at a coach and saying, you're not doing your job.
So nothing's
Well-
in writing?
That would be
Yeah.
in writing.
then they
That
haven't
would
been
be
following
right.
the contract. Because it stipulates, this is what it says in the contract. Coaches, advisors will receive feedback on their performance midway through the season or year,
And they
meaning
do
an
verbally.
activity.
It doesn't
It doesn't say
say a
written.
written evaluation.
Well, coaches and advisors who receive an unsatisfactory evaluation
That's
for an
the-
activity shall be given specific directions. So, wouldn't you want that if you were
But
a
if-
coach or an activity coordinator, advisor? Wouldn't you want that in writing to find out what you need to correct so that it's clear?
So if you coach a sport that lasts a month and a half, you're gonna do 2 evaluations on somebody?
I'm not saying what the format has to be or what the evaluation has to look like. I'm saying that there's a contract that states this clearly.
We are
And
following that.
obviously
We are following it, Elaine. We do give feedback throughout the entire season, not just halfway through. We give feedback.
I think it would be easy to skip it if you don't have anything in writing.
And I-
Well, you're asking him to do, you're putting more work on him.
Well,
And I-
And I didn't know
maybe
you were
that's
looking-
just how it is. I asked him when he was here at the meeting, I said, you still want the job? You don't know what the job description says? You said you've never seen it? And he still wanted the job, with the understanding that this was going to be looked at.
Well, I would ask the question, don't written evaluations benefit everyone?
They
as-
do.
As opposed to, because you have now a paper trail, just in the unlikely event, somewhere down the road, something goes to pot.
But just
You've
like
got some
te-
sort of a paper trail of evaluations that gives the,
But even teachers get one evaluation
right.
a year. You
And this
know,
isn't just sports either.
right,
It's
you
more
know,
than sports,
advisors
it's their
and-
activities
Yep.
that enriches the student's life. It's drama, it's newspaper, it's art club. It covers all of these other things that
Yeah, I get that.
are listed for stipend positions.
But I mean, you're evaluating coaches more than you're even evaluating teachers.
Go figure.
And I think coaches have a shorter
Where's the
season.
teaching piece in this? Where's the educational?
Well,
Well,
we
that
could
isn't
change
what the
that as well.
activities and athletics coordinator does. We'll get to the teaching piece when we do other job descriptions and get into other business, but this is what we're talking about right now. So, yes, we're very concerned with the education as well, but we're covering this job description.
Right now. All right, so what are the changes to number 5 that we want? Additions or deletions or
Well, we
Under
could stop and
discussion.
put a period at assignment.
For the selection.
And evaluation of athletic coaches and advisors will be completed per the contract.
Now, the contract does not say that that has to be a written evaluation. Is that what you are requesting, is a written evaluation midway through the season, or midway through the
I think it
club
should be,
activity?
yes.
Okay, then
So
that-
are we
then
changing it
let's
on
write
here?
that in there, please.
That it
Yeah.
would be. will be
Evaluation of
completed-
athletic coaches and advisors will be completed per the contract and in written format.
isn't there a I'm going to answer my own question. There's a form out there that an evaluation form that is just a matter of check marks on a scale from 1 to 5. It probably wouldn't take a whole lot of time, and then there's an area down at the bottom for a comment if needed. So I'm not sure it's going to take a
That's
whole lot
fine,
of time.
that's the way we do it.
Everyone in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's up to any advisor or coach who John judges deficient in any area to ask for the specifics, because they have the right to correct those things when they get their evaluation halfway through. I think it's their responsibility to find out what they need to correct.
All right. In the interest of time, are there any other of these that stick out? Or shall I read each and every one?
6 seems to be okay. 7, and we had talked about this before, is getting documented feedback from parents and students.
And John and the coaches have developed a template to use for feedback.
Okay.
How will that be distributed, just out of curiosity?
At the end
Mail?
of the season, it would be distributed to parents and students.
By mail, probably?
That
or-
gets expensive.
Yeah.
It's 48.5 cents to mail every one of them.
Couldn't you do it in an email? Most of us are all signed up for emails through the school.
Most people are, but not all.
No.
You have to figure out who wasn't getting it and.
Well,
Give
that's
it
a
to the
good idea.
student. They're supposed to be responsible enough, they could give it to their
Right.
parents.
Typically, we give things to the students and
Right.
they're supposed to take them to the parents.
I know how that works.
Yeah, me too.
But I mean, they are juniors and seniors and freshmen in high school.
So either way, I guess you guys could work it out between snail mail and email. Or
And we can put it on the school website thing too, and parents will be knowing that they should look for this.
I guess, I assume number 8 looks like current practice.
So are we gonna add anything on to number 7? We're gonna leave it the way it is?
Well, I mean, Patty has told us that they have something in place. We can put via U.S. Postal Service and email at the end of it. Would that cover it, or
7?
number 7? You just put via USPS or email?
Can we have some results reported to the school board? Since it'll be new. We want to know what kind of response we're getting.
Michelle has a question.
And so,
Just from a coach's point of view, are you requesting that the students fill out an evaluation too, or just the parents?
I believe, Elaine, you wanted students, parents, coaches.
Yeah, I think they ought to.
It says
it's-
measure student and parent satisfaction.
Yeah, and this isn't necessarily, Michelle, to evaluate you as a coach. What I mentioned to John, and I think you and Carl were here at the meeting, is that what I'd like from the kids is something about their skill levels and their, what they've developed through the season. You know,
Their
what have they
experience.
achieved by the activity? And it's going to be different, obviously, for student council. Maybe they felt they've developed leadership skills. But a student on a basketball team might feel like they can lay a foul shot that they couldn't before. I'm looking for that kind of thing.
So
I'm
you're
not,
looking for them to evaluate the coach?
no, I'm
No.
not looking for them to rip a coach apart.
That was our understanding before,
No.
is that you
Yeah.
had-
No, I said in the
That's
meeting,
what they said last
I
time.
said in the meeting that there's a way you can get input from kids that is positive. You know, and how can we build on making them feel better after they've participated in an activity? We want to know what our kids get out of this.
Okay, well, our understanding was that you were looking for parents and students to evaluate the coaches, and that's what we drafted, was an evaluation for coaches.
That's not what I said in the meeting at all. I said there's a way to do this and keep it positive.
Okay. Then
I'm not looking to rip 'em
We will
apart.
definitely change what we did.
Do you think the opinions of the parents would matter? Parents and the students' opinions on the coach would be beneficial, or do you think it would just be a easy way to set them up as a target? I mean, you're gonna get that anyway,
It would be okay if it didn't become an evaluative thing.
but, yeah, just
For the own coach's personal information, but I think that if you have parents and students doing your coach's evaluation, and that's what decides whether they have a job or not, I don't think that's appropriate at all.
No, it's
And
just
that's not what I ever
their
intended.
experiences, you know, participating in that
We will
activity.
change our thing then, because that wasn't our understanding at
No.
all.
sorry about that.
I wanted to provide a way for the parents and the students to have documented input in this, but I was not trying to tear coaches down with this process at all, or any advisor.
Basically just what our program, how well is our program running? Or is there something we can improve on? That kind of thing, is that what you were looking at?
That's what I had in mind.
Mhm.
Yes, Jane.
My understanding is that we will be reviewing all of the stipend positions. I believe I might have 1 or 2 at the elementary level. This will apply to my level as well.
Yeah,
What do you have
eventually.
for stipend positions?
Yearbook, I think that's about it.
Is there elementary chorus? We talked about it, but I don't remember.
That's
That was
in the
there
course
was,
of the day,
classes.
the class.
yearbook, the class.
Cross country?
No.
I don't know if that is.
No, that's
No.
all
But
that
John
stuff.
doesn't evaluate the elementary school
No,
programs.
he has
doesn't
nothing to
have
do
anything
with
to that.
element.
Who does that? Is that you? Or-
All we have for stipended positions would be yearbook. Mike deals with all of the sports. I have nothing whatsoever to do with that, so
That's
any
right.
evaluation there.
Gotcha. Lucky you.
Thank God.
All right, okay.
Where are we?
Number 9. Number 9 looks like it's still in use.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just shout out, Patty, if you see something that's in there that you don't think is necessary. Okay, number 10.
This hasn't been done, but John has added that to his list of things to do per a meeting that we had earlier that you told him to do it.
I think the school board should be added in here. In conjunction with the school administrators and delivers to the superintendent and school board. Or school committee, whatever we are.
You think we get that anyway? Include. Organizes and schedules all athletic and co-curricular activities. Hires officials, policemen, and other support
Yes.
personnel as required.
Yes to
Ranges-
13,
I'm sorry?
yes to 13.
Okay.
Back up to 11.
Okay. 11. Organizes and schedules all athletic and co-curricular events. Now, somewhere along here it said he was in charge of fundraisers as well?
That's what you guys said
That's what we
at
said?
the last meeting, yeah. You wanted him to do the fundraising calendar with the activities. You guys had said that at a previous meeting.
I guess you're gonna have to refresh my memory. Is he gonna do just the calendar, or is he gonna do the actual
He just-
fundraisers?
No,
The
no, no.
advisors are responsible.
They,
Okay, he's
yeah.
just gonna set up the
Just
calendar?
organizes
Oh.
when they take place and who does what.
Yeah.
Is that a problem, do you think?
No, it's always been done by me, but he's willing to do it, and I'll
Okay.
sit in here with him and teach him how to do it. It takes like 10 minutes to do.
Excellent. All right. 14, arranges for meals for student participants and co-curricular coaches and advisors when approved as per school system policy.
Yes.
That's for like overnight trips and long trips.
Tournaments,
Tournaments.
typically.
Prepares the annual athletic and co-curricular programs budget requests.
Yes.
Requisitions in cooperation with appropriate staff members, supplies, uniforms, and equipment for athletic and co-curricular programs when approved.
Yes.
What about 15? Can we add, and assists in monthly budgetary reports of each activity's balance to be distributed to advisors and coaches?
Well,
Sorry,
What?
didn't mean to mess you up.
no, I just need to know what information would be included in something like that.
What are you looking for there?
Well, it says prepares annual athletic and co-curricular programs budget requests.
Right, those are requests that come to you at the budget time that are included in the total budget that you either accept, cut, add to, or delete from.
But do they come from the coaches? I mean, the coaches might have,
Yes.
Yes.
okay.
The coaches give it, they make requests, the athletic director who looks at those requests and sees how it fits into the process of purchasing. You're not gonna buy new uniforms for one team annually and nothing for anyone else. We spread that out across the process. And the same way with major supplies and equipment, it's spread out across its return, so to speak. Your equipment is 10 years old and wearing out, time to replace it.
Yeah.
So does each activity have a certain amount
No.
in their
No,
budget,
It
or?
all depends, certainly, let's just say that the softball team is up for new uniforms this year, and so is the soccer team. Basketball is not up. Those uniforms may be more or less expensive than the uniforms for the other sports that might be up the following year. So, no, the numbers will never, ever balance from sport to sport, child to child.
Okay.
Some sports are more expensive to operate than others. I had a ski team in the school. Ski team was $500 per student per year. Basketball was $80. You can't compare them that way.
But activities have fundraisers, and each class has fundraisers, and we have advisors for classes. And each group, they're going to have fundraisers that are scheduled at different times of the year, and there isn't any reason why they couldn't get a monthly report on their balance in their account, is there?
They can.
They can't. It's in the
And
school
most-
account,
and a
all
lot of
divided
them will
out.
come
Right.
and request their monthly reports.
So if this is in here, it's in writing, that they will get a monthly budget balance report.
It's not in
Well, we could put it in there, that's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
there. Well,
When
that
you
comes,
say-
that actually comes from me, not John.
And when they say.
Well, if we say he assists in monthly budget reports of each activity's balance to be distributed to coaches or advisors, just say it assists in monthly reports.
So I assume all requisitions come through you, Patty?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
all right,
every single one of them.
all right. So is that gonna cover it?
Yeah, prepares annual athletic and co-curricular programs requests and assists in monthly budgetary reports of each activity's balance to be distributed to coaches and
Do you have
advisors.
that written out? Can I have a copy of it rather than here
And
trying to write that fast? You slow
Well,
down.
half of it's
What
there.
comes after assists?
I've got that, and assists.
In monthly budgetary reports.
Hold on. I'm not in shorthand. Monthly reports,
Budget reports of each,
budget,
budget reports
yeah,
of each activity's balance.
and
To be distributed to coaches and advisors. Or, I mean, not necessarily coaches, but maybe they would want that for some reason, I don't know.
They don't have accounts.
No,
Coaches
so
don't have accounts.
advisors.
Advisors.
You know, Photo Club might be interested in how many, if they can buy a new camera, you know, something like that.
So just so I can understand the process, a coach would,
no, this is gonna be a advisor, not a coach, in this case.
an advisor, okay, an advisor would put in a requisition for materials to the co-curricular activities director, who would then send it to you.
Yes.
And it would get either approved or disapproved, or,
It's like academic decathlon. The coach will request the materials that we need for academic decathlon. They'll put in a bus slip that goes to John about the state trip that they go on at the end of the year. They'll put their other requests into him of things that they might need, like if they go to Callis, Callis might be serving lunch and they need money to pay for lunch. And those requisitions come back through me.
okay, gotcha. All right, so, 16 and 17 look good with the,
16.
what?
Yearly report, provides yearly reports for anticipated uniform and equipment needs to the
Is that-
superintendent.
Would that be a budgetary item, like once a year?
Do you want to put that up in 10 in the yearly report that he prepares? Should include,
Well, it sounds like a budgetary item, which, isn't that to you?
because you
Bill?
don't want to know every single thing that he has to buy for the following year in sports, right? Like basketballs and a glove.
No, the
and
large
an
item,
ankle
the large
brace.
item stuff.
Uniforms
Yeah.
is pretty much what you're talking about, correct? So his yearly report should include large budget requests.
Yeah, I think
That sounds
anything
good.
we anticipate that,
Well, if he needed
know.
uniforms, he would certainly
It's a
Go-
very long process.
go through you, and
Yep.
it would,
yeah,
And
so
he does a
we-
very good job looking around and finding the cheapest prices. He does an excellent job that way.
and this is something that you can plan ahead for. This isn't something
We do.
that's like last minute, right? You
No.
can plan a year ahead or
He
2
knows
years.
every year
Yeah.
what uniforms have
Yeah.
come up for.
Okay.
and you say we should put that back with, like in 10,
Yeah,
Patty?
in whatever you want him to
Include, yeah.
include in his report could just be put
okay.
there.
You can just add that to what else he already
Okay.
does. Okay,
All right.
Yep.
18, 19, and 20 look like they're current.
Yeah.
21.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We have an advisory council composed of students, teachers, coaches, advisors, administrators, parents, and other interested citizens?
We do when there's an issue to deal with. We don't have one that regularly takes
You never
place.
meet, right?
We don't have regular meetings.
Right.
We do it when we're talking about the drug and alcohol policy. We have parents, teachers, kids, the whole 9 yards, or when we're talking about eligibility, we have that kind of a group, but we do not have a group that meets on a regular basis and talks about co-curricular activities.
Now, how were these people contacted to? Like,
We ask for volunteers.
just ask you don't advertise or anything like that? You
No, we just ask for volunteers.
How many people are on that committee usually?
Well, we usually have 3 or 4 parents there. We usually only have 2 students. There's usually 2 to 3 teachers, and some, actually, there's more teachers because a lot of, well, it used to be that teachers were coaches as well. Usually we'll get 3 or 4 coaches, administrator. When we did the drug and alcohol policy, I bet we had 22 people. We had a huge group.
Should we be so lucky?
When we did eligibility, we probably had a group of 15. But we do not meet in a regular group, no. In a regular.
Like, is it like once a year, Patty, or twice a
It's
year?
only when an issue arises
Only-
that we need to take care of.
Yeah.
That's the only time we meet.
It's usually 2:30 in the afternoons.
Yeah, that's at the end of the day.
But you say like it's like a negative issue. It sounds like.
No,
Drug,
anything that we need to revise or update or think that we want it to be better, you know? When we're looking for improvement in our policies. Just like with the new proficiency-based stuff, we'll generate a group of people that will come together to talk about the proficiency-based and how that fits with eligibility.
Is the never mind. 23. Perform such other duties and assume such other responsibilities as school principal and the superintendent may from time to time assign. Now, how often does he get assigned things? Like,
He'll go out and help mow out here with, I usually don't have to assign it, he just goes and does it
There are
on his
times
own.
when no matter how complete you are in a job description, that something
Oh,
will
yeah.
change or come up, whether it's attend a meeting, attend a parent night,
But I don't
go
have
something
to tell
extra,
him.
do something extra.
Like today was step-up day, and we needed him to come in and talk to freshmen and talk to the 7th graders about the sports programs, the interscholastic activities and stuff, and what their role in that was, and he just does that stuff. I don't have to assign it to him.
He was even at our volleyball tournament this weekend in Machias, taking pictures.
Yeah, he often goes to the away games and activities and.
he works for the advertiser.
He works for the advertiser, he has
Right, but he
to.
does not get paid mileage to go to those games.
Yeah, he could do all home
No.
if he wanted to.
What, I know, there's been some talk about him keeping, or making him newly responsible for lining the fields and all that.
Do I believe that that's appropriate? No, I don't.
Has he hired someone to do the line? I heard that Brian,
Every year we hire somebody to get the nets up and the field ready, and for on game days, make sure that the lines are, it used to be one of our custodians would do it, but then we cut the custodians back so far that there's no way that they can do it. So we ended up having to hire somebody to do it.
and that, where does that money come from for this
The athletic budget.
athletic budget? How much you know how much that is every year? 1,000?
3,000, I think.
I could probably check with Chrissy and figure it out because it's only in the fall and in the spring. Chrissy and I could probably come up with an amount, but off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you.
I was athletic director in Machias, and I had to line the fields. But what I did object to this year is that he hired his son to do it in the spring.
Well, we didn't have any other applicants. We advertised 3 different times.
That's
and
correct.
had absolutely no applicants other than his son, and I went to Bill with that, so that Bill could hire him, because I didn't feel comfortable doing that, because it was a relative. He is the only person that applied for that position, and he did a good job. Just like anybody else that we would hire. I mean, if your daughter was the only one that applied for a position at the school, we would hire her if she was competent to do that. And just because you're on the board, we wouldn't say, no, you can't do that. Or just because you're employed here.
I wouldn't encourage her to because of the nepotism thing, but it bothers me that a Baileyville kid couldn't have done it.
They could have, if they had applied for the job. It was open for a long time. And
I
we
think
had
that
no
we should-
applicants.
I think that we should add it to the job description. I don't think it's demeaning to do the athletic fields.
I
And
don't
he's,
think it's demeaning.
he's
I
a
just don't think it's
professional,
appropriate.
and they'll be done right. I think he ought to do the preparatory maintenance that is lining the fields for soccer, baseball, and softball. That's just me, you know. I don't know if other board members agree, if we want to make a decision on it or not.
Just make it part of his job description.
Somebody we hire.
No.
I think the rec department's been doing it the past couple of times, but
I think Ryan Lincoln's doing it, isn't he?
But we're paying him.
Oh,
John hired him to do
Yeah,
it.
we pay them minimum wage.
yeah, but Mike Boyce does something. What does Mike do?
Mows.
Oh, he doesn't
Yeah,
do lines?
I'm not talking about mowing.
He
I'm
did,
just talking
yes.
about,
Yeah.
Mike
doing
will
the
come
lines
down
for the
and
games.
show the new people that do the lines. He'll come down and show them how to do it,
Yeah.
but he does not do the lines.
he's done the line for twice this year so far.
Well, yeah, but that's not his normal,
No.
he'd be doing it as a favor.
For the
I
high
guess.
school?
But it was a favor, I think.
Yeah. It was a
I
favor.
think he doesn't normally do that, right?
No.
No.
No, not at all.
When Christopher worked for the rec department for Mike, he did lines once before, when he worked for him.
Yeah.
That
I'm
used to
in-
be where it was done. It used to be a part of the rec department's
Mm.
responsibilities.
well, I'm in favor of adding it. Does anybody else feel it can be added as well?
I think we should add it.
Crystal, what do you think?
It seems to be working the way it is right now. It's already in the budget and stuff.
That?
Say add it.
Add it.
Add it.
Yeah. Okay.
What number do we want to use?
It's gonna,
Let's see.
we're
25,
up
it
to
must be.
25. I think we got 24, yeah, 25.
Yeah, it'll actually be 24 when we're done. We leave this one back.
That's true. So it'll be 24.
Added up to 24.
Yep, because we took one out, so they'll all get renumbered.
Oh, okay.
All right, I guess that concludes co-curricular activities coordinator, job description revision.
To accept it.
Yeah,
With the
You may
revised
want to call your brother for a ride.
ask you.
Yeah,
Do we need to vote on
We
it?
need
yeah,
to-
we'll vote on it, make it clear. Looking for a motion to accept the coordinator of student activities / athletics job description revision. September 1st, 2015,
I'll make that motion.
okay?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor? 5-0. All right, let's do. Gonna flip a coin, see who goes next. Oh, this is dreadfully long.
It doesn't matter who you do next. Neither one of us do.
Paula? No.
Paula's is the shortest.
The guidance counselor. Which it is. Not sure I have that. Do you have another copy?
Of the
I
guidance
can,
counselor?
no. I don't have a clean one, I've written all over it.
I've got a clean one.
All right, well, I'll just follow the
Copy
lead.
it, then just, wanna use this one? Copy it on there? For him?
Not enough detail. I have the original.
This one.
All right, do you have it, Patty? Okay.
Oh, that's one.
And,
I probably
okay,
have
this
another
was
one
reviewed
here.
in spring of 2008, last.
I think it's important as we go through this one to remember that Paula now spends one day at the elementary school, and she's also taken the position of the school, of the counselor who used to come over on Friday mornings. So she actually isn't in a guidance counselor position 1.5 days of the week.
Well, Paula, we'd like to have you come right up here at the table.
Come right up to the table.
Well, we get our books in here. You feel okay?
Maybe that's something we don't need to continue here in elementary school or do anything. I don't know if we do.
What does she do at the elementary school, Jane? Just give us an idea.
We can ask her, but there are many clients with whom she works with during the course of a day. She's an integral part of
What do you
what
mean?
we need for some of those kids.
Yeah, just notes.
They're not shareable, or, I don't understand.
Are they shareable?
I just figured everybody had them, looking on the table, it's kind of curious.
No, well, I guess they're shareable. You have the same thing we do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just notes.
Except you have my guidance counselor job description.
That's
down
right, I
here.
didn't get the ones with the red either, so. I didn't get them either.
I don't have a red one.
No? Make a copy.
No, they have some with notes and
So,
is what they're doing.
Ours don't have any notes in.
Paula, can you tell us what you are doing at the elementary?
Just for some history for the new board, when I
I'm new too.
Well, yeah. The elementary school guidance position used to be 8 days a week. I used to do it for years. It was a 4-day-a-week position, and then that one day would go up to Princeton Elementary School. A year ago, that position was cut entirely. The woman who had it before me had that position, and it was cut. And so I go over there and take the counseling piece of the kids that really are in some trouble. And because of their situation, some of them are being taken to outside counseling, but a significant number of them aren't. It's not anything that they can help or do anything about. So I take those kids and work with them and consult with teachers while I'm there, get updates on how they're doing, do a lot through email as well. Meet with Jane probably the first 15 minutes of each, I go over each Wednesday. And that's what I do. There's no time for classroom presentations like I used to do back in the day. And what was also cut with that round of cuts late last year was the guidance counselor who was there full-time came over here a half a day a week and did the counseling load here because there was really no time for that.
And for the same reasons, because some kids don't get taken out to the outside referrals as they should, through no fault of their own, but they're not getting the services they need to move forward, so that's what I do here. So really, for traditional guidance counseling services, as you remember, that has been here for years, I'm down to 3.5 days a week in this building. So,
She spent a day and a half over there.
well, a day over there, and then a half a day basically closed down to this, because I'm counseling individual students
Okay.
that need it.
Just to change it up a little bit, has Denise started yet?
She's gonna be starting this week,
She had to give
right?
2-week notice.
Oh, that's right too.
So but they've hired somebody and she is training them, so hopefully she'll get in here a little bit before the 2 weeks.
Yeah, good.
Sooner than she thought.
All right. Well, did we address number 1 yet? I was making a copy.
No, we asked her what she did at the
Oh.
elementary.
Okay. Arrange an adequate guidance program. So I just wonder what adequate means. Is it?
I hope it's beyond adequate.
Right,
but-
it's much more than adequate.
But the comprehensive guidance plan, I maintain that, and that's, you all should probably have that somewhere in all your stacks of papers, but I maintain that it's my job to do that includes the crisis team development and training, making sure we're up to date with our crisis response, suicide trainings, which we just did yesterday, and that type of thing.
I think that number 1 is awfully vague. I think we
It's a
ought to,
big one, yeah.
we should,
Streamline it?
if it's any more streamlined, there wouldn't be anything there at all. I
Adequate
think we need to
seems-
fill in something there that's more specific, like you arrange your guidance program through advisory groups or through classroom visitation, something specific,
specific.
Paula. In addition, the crisis team, and it ought to be a little fuller.
Those things could be spelled out, if I could
Arrange
do that.
a guidance program that includes,
Arrange and maintain, I'd say too.
Would like the Department of Education have a generic type of, guidance is the same here than it is everywhere else, I assume, right?
Exactly,
So-
yeah.
So would the Department of Education have some sort of a,
They
Just
do, they have that comprehensive guidance
Yeah.
plan that's basically, school boards are free to adjust that as they see fit for their own locality, but it's a template.
yeah?
And we adopted it basically right from the DOE years ago.
Mhm.
And we update that, it gets updated with personnel changes. We update the names of the crisis team.
Yeah.
So we need to rewrite this number 1. You think arrange and maintain a guidance program?
that is consistent with the comprehensive plan. That
Yeah.
makes sense,
Yeah.
right?
And the comprehensive plan is
That's a big,
you design or state design?
well, it was the template from the state that
It's
we
a
adopted.
template from the state,
Yeah.
okay, that fits Baileyville?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And we have it, we have it.
Yeah.
We can have it at any time.
And that is through
Through the
State.
DOE.
state DOE?
Yeah.
Well, we should just say DOE.
Yeah.
So how are you gonna write that?
I'm just taking notes, Patty. So what I have, it would be arrange and maintain, because Paula said maintain, a guidance program that is consistent with the comprehensive plan from the DOE.
Mhm.
So, is
That covers, that's a big, number 1's a big one.
Yeah.
But that covers it,
well, it says something more than arrange an adequate guidance program.
yeah.
Are we happy with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, going years back, I remember that the guidance office coordinated all of the testing, all of the school testing. But I understand now that it's being done through the library. Okay.
Well,
Let me
now,
hear it.
There's a, so when the changes came from me being here 5 days and doing pure guidance counseling work to being honed down to 3.5. And then at that same year, Mr. Noyes retired and Patty was stuck really for somebody to assist her. I didn't jump forward, you know, I wasn't that keen on taking over that, but I did. And within a couple weeks of acting as assistant principal, plus adding on the elementary school duties, I found myself a little overwhelmed. So I went to my supervisor and I asked her, you know, is there anything here we can do to adjust? Anything? She said, well, what's detachable? What's the easiest thing to detach from your job? And I still run the testing program, but what we detached out of there and asked the librarian if she would like to take on is the ordering of the tests and the arranging of the testing rooms. And we thought that that was an adequate, detachable thing for her to do. And I think Patty's given her time in the weekly schedule to do that.
It's like an hour a
The
week? or-
teacher and I sat down together at the end of last school year and made the decision that she would take Friday afternoons where the library won't be closed, but the library would be utilized by teachers and their students. She would not be available to them. She's changed that this year to a Wednesday, that she'd rather do it on a Wednesday afternoon. So,
And this is where the, I think it was 100 hours a year allotted, set aside for this?
oh no, you wouldn't need 100 hours a year.
No? I must be
No.
reading
No,
The time allowed, mentioned to us was 33.
it.
But
Okay.
I'll tell you what I think on this.
Well, it's 26 weeks if you're giving it an hour and a half.
And the librarian had held this position before of doing the testing, so we felt that it wasn't anything new that we hadn't done before.
But she doesn't interpret or anything the test.
No.
That's all guidance.
No, that's
Yeah.
all
Okay.
through guidance.
I think that all of the testing needs to be done through guidance, and if something else has to give, then it may have to. But I think it's appropriate, and it's appropriate in most schools, that all academic testing originates in the guidance office. And I think it should be back there. And we understand that doesn't mean she's solely responsible to monitor, or there's no coordination with any other unit in the school. But I think that it ought to be scheduled and coordinated through the guidance office, and because she's still responsible for interpreting test results and reporting those results to students and parents and guardians and staff. And I think it belongs there. And it was not a fact that the librarian was always in charge of testing. The only
No,
testing...
not always.
No.
No.
The only testing I did, and I inherited it from Chuck because I was willing to do it, was the ACT and the SAT. And the ASVAB and any of the other ones, the PSAT, might have taken place in here, but I never scheduled and I never coordinated. I did the SAT because it was separate on Saturdays, and the ACT because it was separate on Saturdays, and we were the only school in the area that did the ACT twice a year and the SAT 5 times a year. But other than that, it was always out of guidance with Dottie Johnson.
yeah. And when I came over, you finished up that year, and then I gladly took that. And it's not as if I didn't want to do this,
Right.
gave this over to the librarian.
Yeah.
She was-
I still do the ASVAB, and
Yeah.
I do the meetings for the interpretations and talk with parents and send home reports and whatnot.
Yeah.
I do still a good amount of it, but what got sent over to the librarian was the ordering, you know how that goes.
Yep.
And just arranging the testing rooms, because I'm not here one day a week, and it's just a little harder to get a hold of
Yeah.
them or whatever,
But these testing and assessments, especially the ones that are mandated, I think that's a priority and it belongs with guidance. I don't think it is appropriate for the librarian to be coordinating this. And I think registering kids and everything else ought to be done in the guidance office.
I still do the registering too. I do a lot of it, but it's just the ordering and the arranging of the testing rooms.
Is this something that the new
When
secretary could pick up?
we talked to the
The ordering
librarian,
and,
and she actually input kids into the system to take these tests. It was 15 minutes a kid. So she did do registering.
She
and
did. This year was the first, well, this last year was the first year we did in-house SAT.
Mhm.
So that did involve a big changeover. We did
Yeah.
do all online registration because we had to.
Yeah.
There's no more paper registration anymore.
Right. Well,
So
anyway,
that
I'm just
was a big
saying, I think that
switchover. Yeah.
it needs to be specified that this belongs in the guidance office, just in my opinion, and everybody else can decide where they think it's appropriate.
I want to be clear. A little slow some days. Scheduling and coordinating all academic tests and other appropriate testing and assessments. That's one thing. That doesn't include scheduling and coordinating, in my mind at least. Doesn't include what we're just talking about. So if you're going to include that, we need to add that to what you've got written here.
Coordinating it to me means that you're just
Arranging
setting
for
up the
people to
rooms
do
and
it.
arranging people to monitor.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but that, we're talking about inputting here.
we're concerned about inputting.
The online registrations.
Right.
So we-
Registration is not, scheduling and coordinating is not registering. So I'm saying, what I'm saying or asking is, do you want
So
registering
should
in here
we,
as well?
so we
Yes.
will stipulate registering as well?
Well, if that's gonna, because
I mean,
scheduling
there
and
will be a
coordinating-
secretary in that office, so, yeah.
I guess I
Understanding
would
that.
ask the question, what do you want to give up in place of that?
Well, that will be a matter
No idea
of sorting.
how
We
much
understand
works.
that this is, I know school starts tomorrow, and these job descriptions being done tonight was not our choice. We wanted to do it earlier in the year. I mean, last meeting, these were all
Last
scheduled,
meeting.
so everybody would have had more heads up. But, in other words, I guess we're saying that as you get going through the year, you'll have to inform us what else has to be given up.
That was the easiest thing to give up because it was most attachable. I keep all the I keep all the interaction with students about their testing results and calling the parents, talking to recruiters and
Mhm.
college reps and all of that stuff that I do,
Yeah.
writing about them on the college apps.
Mhm.
I kept all the student counseling piece of it. The only thing that the librarian had, again, was just to go online and purchase the tests. And then this year, yes, she had to do the online registrations of them because it was an in-house SAT for the first
Mhm.
time ever. And it actually took a Saturday away that we don't have to do in May anymore with the whole group of third years, which was,
Yep.
we all know how fun that was. So that's not happening anymore, so it's actually a little bit better than it was. So
Yeah.
we honestly did think that this was the best and least impactful.
And she was willing to do it.
And she,
you know, she
she
didn't-
did, she came, we met with her and she said.
That
it was
wasn't
fine.
necessarily clear to us.
Yeah,
What,
Well, that-
willingness? Yes, I mean, she even sat down with me and we decided on a time. I asked her what she needed for it. She said, if you can give me this time, I can do it in this amount of time.
Well, I don't think it's appropriate to be discussing that without her being here, but back to this, I think it's a priority that the academic testing, especially since it's so mandated and it's so reported in the media, that it needs to be focused in the guidance office.
But give her the time to do it. just give her the time to do it.
That's what I said, Patsy. You know, I said that with the understanding that something else might have to give.
And we, that's where we were wondering what would give.
And that's what I said. Also, I answered you in saying, I understand your school year is just starting and that you'll have to let us know what else.
I don't know what
Can
that
be.
would be, where it's not gonna cut into my student,
Well,
work with, directly with students.
no,
That
it's,
would be a sad thing if that happened.
What about the secretary? That might be something.
right, there will be
Yeah,
a secretary.
That could be an
You know,
option
we
as
could,
far
we
as
could go on all
online.
night. I
Yeah.
mean, we need to find out if the other board members agree that
Where
academic testing belongs in the guidance office and
Well, there
that
seems
that's
to
a
be
guidance
a-
priority.
a disparity between what you understood the librarian communicated to you and what she communicated to us.
Mhm.
Should there be a way that you can talk to her at the next meeting? And
I don't
find
think
out?
that would be appropriate because I think that would be exerting undue pressure. I think that would be intimidation.
Is what she doing is, all she's doing is ordering a test.
Yeah,
And then scheduling the classrooms or scheduling the rooms, right?
that's it.
So she has, that's
And
got
she
nothing
did
to do with this,
registration last year.
and you do everything else.
No, see, there's a
But no
matter of a
student
job
interaction.
description for the librarian as well, Crystal. We haven't covered that yet, but that's not part of her regular duties. This is an administrative duty out of the guidance office that we are transferring to someone else on the staff.
So change
And-
that job
and just
description
in-
when you get to
In
it.
my humble opinion, that's not appropriate. It has always been in the guidance office, and every other school I know of, it's in the guidance office, and I think it should stay in the guidance office.
Well,
These
we'll
are
just
things
add-
that are mandated by the state, and I think that
I'll
all of
just-
that business ought to be there.
And I do, if I were 5 days a week here like I used to be when this was reviewed, it would be different.
Yeah.
I'm not, I will just say too, I'm not an administrator.
Ms. Foley has a question.
Just a general comment, it seems to me that in both of the discussions that this so far about job description, and I suspect that the same thing will be an issue when we find the non-assistance job description. What you're looking at, I think, is a side effect of what you would call mission creep. As positions have been eliminated, administrative positions have been eliminated in this town, essentially the few remaining administrators are being asked to take up the slack. So Ms. McShane is taking up slack over at the elementary school, so something gives at the high school. So the guidance position leaks into the general purview of the librarian because she has the space and because she's negotiated a period of time in which she can do this. And this may be one of the consequences that you, as a board, will either have to live with or deal with for as long as you have to exist under these budget constraints. Now, if you want to restore other positions, the assistant principal position or something like that, so that you get a body in there who's charged with doing these tasks as part of his or her regular job description, then you eliminate that piece of leakage. But if that is a budgetary no-go, then I think you will face exactly what consequence we're looking at here. The world of the ideal may not be open to us. But realistically, there are only so many pieces of bread over which you can spread one tablespoon of peanut butter. And we are turning administrators into tablespoons full of peanut butter. I could just make that comment.
And I'm not an administrator, I'll repeat that again, it's important, because I'm not.
But,
I'm
but
on
if
the-
there was, I'm sorry.
I'm in the union, and I don't see myself as they and we and all of that, but I am not an administrator, so I just am different that way. And where I did was have it set up, they've added on, or the assistant to the principal duties were added on to me. It was too much, so the part of it that didn't relate directly with kids, we detached and asked the librarian, she agreed and went forward. We thought everything, there was no nefarious intent whatsoever. We thought it would be least impactful for students, because students really don't know who's ordering the tests.
Yeah.
They're
And-
good either way.
And I can see what Mrs. Foley is saying. I agree with that. I see what you're saying. But the problem is that at some point when you came into this problem and needed to find a different way, you know, by giving it to someone else, it should have gone to the superintendent, who should have brought it to the board, so we could have discussed it earlier and taken care of it.
We
That's-
talked about this in detail when they terminated the position at the elementary school, about what it would cause. And then we talked last year about that need for that, even the secretary to go over on Wednesdays to the elementary school. So yeah, all that has been shared with the board and Mr. Braun.
So,
Opinion.
can we accurately assume that the assistant to the principal position has also cut into the guidance time as well? Okay. And can you give us an idea how many hours a week that entails, or?
Well,
I know it's probably
it-
sporadic.
a good hunk of that is the attendant, what's it called, can't say attendance officer.
Pretty much.
The attendance officer piece is big. We have truancy issues, there's all these hoops we go through with VHS reporting and what Bill needs, Mr. Braun needs to do. And I have to keep track of all those numbers and call the parents. And when we go to a certain thing, we have to have meetings and letters and all these protocols we have to follow. So yeah, that eats up some time. And it's timely stuff. I can't just say, well, you know, I'm going to go ahead and do that on Friday.
Right, gotcha.
Because I'm under deadline. So that was added. And then after school, I am responsible for doing those after school detentions, which are basically every night. It was my understanding, there might be a question now on this part, but it was my understanding if there were no after-school detentions, then I was free to leave at 3. I'd never leave at 3, but I could if I wanted to. But I'm here for the most part 4:30 most nights.
So, would I be wrong in saying that if we were more interested in you concentrating on the responsibilities of the guidance office and released you of some responsibilities as assistant to the principal, that would give you enough time to do what's needed?
That would give me more time for this guidance position here. It would. But I'm kind of split 3 ways now.
Right.
As it was different back when.
But it sounds like the
came over.
assistant to the principal's taking up quite a bit of your time. That might be, you might be able to find somebody else to do that.
We could not. That's why she
Well,
ended up doing it.
I waited and
There's
waited.
absolutely nobody
I wasn't that keen
volunteered.
on the job to start with, but I did wait, and just because I know Patty's job and I know what she does, and if she's out, you know, what would happen, so.
Well, how many hours a week does the assistant to the principal entail? Would you say average?
Well, I don't, a week?
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I know it's going to depend, but I mean an average.
So an hour and a half after.
On the days I'm out, it's their responsible all day.
Yeah. And sometimes when Patty's out, oh, well, we joke about it, just about every time Patty's out, there's some big thing that happens that winds up
Right.
having
Every
to call,
time.
find Mr. Braun wherever he is
Yeah.
in the district, and deal with that, and that will hijack almost a whole day right there, and
Yeah.
this goes.
But if there isn't anything big, you're still doing your
Yeah.
guidance
If
job
there's
during
nothing
the
big,
day.
I'm
If
still
there's,
right doing my job.
if there's nothing to,
That's hard to
hijack it.
predict, hard to
Yeah.
predict those days.
of course.
And there's some days that I am here, that she has to serve as an assistant principal because we're searching kids or something's going down that we need to take care of. And I need somebody with me to take care of that. I never do those types of things alone.
Yeah.
I was part of the committee that made some of the cuts. And I was hoping that it was cuts that would least affect the kids. Any cut is going to affect the kids. These 4 people inherited it, unfortunately. But I do feel that the guidance counselor's job is very important. We got seniors that are coming out of here that they need to be well prepared if they plan to go further.
They need a lot of time, and they need a lot of assistance financially, and, you know, all these things they do, and they should. They're seniors and they're getting ready to transition into the good world. This does impinge on, we see some younger kids, because those upperclassmen, they've got early college classes on managing and everything else. They take up, and they necessarily do take up a lot of time. So when I am here, I'm pretty much all about the upperclassmen.
We're in a rock and a hard
Well,
spot.
Basically, doing what we're in charge of testing.
would it be,
Real guidance counselor throughout the
Yeah.
elementary school.
Going back to the scheduling and the ordering, I'd like to use an analogy. In my office, I don't schedule patients going to other offices. That's going to waste my time, which is more important given to patients. And I surely don't fill out insurance forms and register patients. That's done by somebody else.
She's got a secretary.
Yeah.
That's not a useful
He's missing the
function
point.
for a professional counselor.
Yeah, it's non-student work. It's just,
Dr. McHugh, she has a secretary,
She
it's
does
the
have a
same as you would.
secretary.
Well,
This just puts that
whoever has to
responsibility in
do
her
it,
office
she would be responsible for the
for overseeing
carrying
it.
it out, but she surely doesn't need to do any of that work.
She's responsible, this places the responsibility in her office. It doesn't require
That's not what
her
you've
to
been
type
saying.
it. Well, that's what the job description does. And when we get to the, you know, John doesn't coach, he oversees, you know, the activities one and the athletic coordinator that we just did. We don't expect him to do everything. He doesn't attend every fundraiser, but he schedules them.
But you've been saying to her that you want to take that responsibility back from the librarian, who was the one person who had some time, and give it back to the
We don't
counselor.
necessarily know that she had that time. She has her own responsibilities.
She volunteered, she said.
The guidance counselor.
Oh, could we decide if we want the guidance to be responsible for testing and then move
move
on?
on? Yeah, sure. I guess we gotta keep in mind though that something is gonna have to give somewhere down the line, so.
Right.
It may possibly be when we look at the guidance secretary's description, or the librarian.
Or somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so everyone, somebody in agreement with the testing going back to, all aspects of the testing going back to the guidance office? Everyone in favor of it? Becky?
Yep.
Elaine?
Yep.
Glenn?
Can I just clarify some language now? I still have to write this, and I've heard a couple of things, so see if this works now. Oversees the scheduling, coordinating, and registering of students for all academic and other appropriate testing and assessments. Assists in interpreting testing results to students, parents, guardians, and staff. Does that do it?
I think so.
Okay. It doesn't say she does it, it says she oversees it, and
Right.
we'll have to work from there. May mean she has to do some of it, may mean she may be allowed to find someone else to do some of it.
Three, individual and group counseling for career exploration and awareness, social issues and assertiveness. Is that in place?
yes.
How about we put conduct on it? It really is just a list. It doesn't say anything that she does. Conduct individual, we just put that on the word, one word in the front of it.
Number four, gather and provide information to relevant, sorry, gather and provide information relevant to post-high school educational and vocational opportunities. Assist students in selection of courses.
Yeah, that's a big one, yeah.
Assists in preparation of student transcripts. Maintain guidance records for each student. Recognize that some types of information should be kept in separate files. Coordinate financial aid workshops. Coordinate scholarship programs and selection process. Coordinate main career advantage program.
That program there is defunct now.
It is?
Yeah.
Is there anything in its place?
Yes,
Yeah.
well, what I did to pick that up is I take care of their job, I do work placements, like job visits and job shadows.
Job shadowing? Yeah.
Yeah. And I had done that myself, but this part here is kind of been taken over by the community college system.
Coordinates job placements and job shadows.
Yeah.
Conducts follow-up studies of former students.
I do that, JMG does more of that. Jobs Maine Graduates, part of his
It's required.
thing that he does is he follows up with them after graduation.
Does that mean like first-year college students that have
Yeah.
left here and or
Yeah,
how about
he-
people that go to the, how about students that go to the workforce?
He tracks
All of
them
them?
all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's-
could we say with coordination of JMG data where available?
Yeah.
And,
We consult, we
Yep.
talk a lot between us, but that's part of his requirement from JMG is he does that.
yeah,
Because he does the job shadow as
He
well,
does a
right?
lot of that.
Okay.
what do you do with the information you collect on our past students?
Yeah, we meet when we have faculty meetings, we talk about how they're doing, and how we use that information to improve our programs, to prepare them. One example of that is the discussion we had about giving them midterm finals and finals, and how that worked for them out there in the real world, and because we had stopped that, and then based on some of this feedback we were getting, we put it back in.
So it would be appropriate then if we stipulated compile available appropriate educational, vocational, and career data, since it's something you already do?
Yep.
Paul, I gotta go back to number 8, coordinate financial aid workshops. Are parents ever included in those?
Oh, yeah.
They are.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
That's what they're for.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
They're
All right.
outside school hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Outside school hours?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Big
So we
part of
could
that.
say that
Yeah.
for students and their parents and guardians. I know
Sure.
Mila
Mila Kaplan.
comes and does them too. Yeah. She's a former student of ours.
Yeah, she came from here.
Okay, number 12, maintain liaison with referral agencies.
Yes. And those
What are those?
Well, the referral agencies are the local counseling agencies, and they've got waiting lists beyond belief, and there's fewer and fewer of them. So some of our kids are on waiting lists, and that's part, earlier we talked about the part that half-day counseling that I do is to help serve some of these kids who are either on waiting lists or can't get in or can't be transported
Yeah.
for whatever reason. So I have a lot of work with those agencies that I do.
They're also the
Liaison, homeless liaison.
homeless liaison.
Yeah, that I do that.
I think it ought to be more specific, what it says. Maintain a liaison just means she might maintain contact. But what she actually does is connects parents and kids with those agencies. So it ought to be specifically
Are
stated.
these state agencies we're talking about, like?
Yes, some of them are. Some of them are like community care. They're privately run, but they contract with the state. But we don't have enough here in our little area of the world. The kids are on waiting lists, like I said, there's just not much. There's not a lot of resources here for them. So I'm in close contact with their agencies.
So we should connect students, parents, guardians, and staff with specialized referral agencies.
That's what we want.
Yep.
We can correct how liaison is spelled too. I think there's two I's, right?
I don't think so.
I had a hard time learning that word
Yes.
because I am one, and I had to learn how to spell it.
US's.
We don't need,
Liai, I think.
we don't need that first section. We're just gonna start with connect.
All right, coordinate summer out-of-district academic programs.
Well, now that, I don't want to say, but I really don't. We don't have any summer out of district
No.
academic
Well,
programs.
we actually do.
The only, the only thing that I have a hand in are the early college kids who go off to orientation at the end of August. And the Deerville Girls and Boys State, and Upward Bound, yeah.
And the retrieval programs that you have to coordinate during the summer?
Oh, the Odyssey retrieval, yeah. Yeah, that out of district is a little odd, but,
So what would be
but it
better
is,
than that?
it's,
What would be
they-
a better way to, what would be a replacement clause for that?
they take place all over the place. I mean, out of district works.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And then we could probably just put some of the different places, like Upward Bound and,
Upward Bound,
you know, and those things in there,
Deerville Academy.
so that,
Okay, assistant facilitating the transition of students from the elementary level. Is there anyone at the elementary level that helps get them up here, or are we
Your
going down
sixth
there?
grade teacher coordinates it with Pat as well.
We have Step Up Day, they come at
Step
the
Up
end of the
Day,
school year.
Mhm. Is that pretty much what it is, though, like step up day, or do they get, does that include sitting in the classrooms
Yeah.
for any amount of time?
Yeah,
It does?
yeah. They go through their entire schedule, and then we do it again today.
Just do it today.
Okay. Actively solicit suggestions, support, and assistance from teachers in the guidance process in the school. How do you go about that? Is that actually done, or?
Yeah, I do. I email them all the time, to the point where they probably get sick of me, but I do email teachers. I think they feel free to come into my office when they have a question or problem. About class changes, around this time of year, I see more of them. I think I do that. I feel like I'm
I
sitting
think
here
you
judging.
do a very good
my
job.
own.
I mean, there's teachers in your office on a daily basis.
I wouldn't feel I would do a very good job if I didn't work closely with them. I feel like we were part of a team together, so.
Is there any kind of like a learning process or a teaching process on your behalf, learning process on the instructor's part and the teaching process on your part that gets the teachers up to speed on the guidance, the workings of the guidance office, or, I mean, is there things that teachers need to know about the guidance that you have to educate them about, and does that take a lot of time?
Well, not too bad. The advisory program that we have running does a good job of that. We spent a lot of time, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, teachers, everybody together, coming up with a good solid advisory program. The teachers have a huge part in that. I think they pretty much know. I try not to keep secrets from them for what I do, but.
You've mentioned that, Paul. I don't think this board knows very much about the advisory program. They're all so new, and that, I might know a little bit. I don't know how much they were informed. I mean, I understand what it is, and I know you worked hard on getting it
Yeah, you
developed. I was here and worked on it too, but I have a couple of other things that I don't think are specific in your job description that I'd like to have specified. We can bring them up. One is that I know you go to regional meetings for guidance counselors, and that's not here, but I think it's something that would be expected, and I think you ought to have that listed there. And I know you already do it, but I've suggested participate in staff development and regional support meetings related to guidance counselor responsibilities, just so that there will be that support for you to continue to keep in touch with the other guidance counselors, at least in the county, and get your professional days.
It is very helpful to me. It's almost like a peer supervision group, really.
Yeah.
It's really helpful to me.
And I think that ought to be in your job description, that you get to do that.
And I assume that you're required by the state to get so many credits to maintain the license.
Yeah. I have to be recertified, just like the teacher.
Just like every teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing I know you do, I think it's very simplified, number 5. We said assist students in selection of courses. And I think there ought to be more detail there, that you are working with scheduling students in appropriate courses, because when we have add drop and they find out they're in the wrong one, they've got to get it signed. It's got to come from you to get that changed. And so I think there ought to be more specifics there. And along with that, I think that the guidance counselor is in a key position to see the needs for future courses and what positions and placement and things like that will be needed in the school. So I think that compile and submit data related to future course requirements at Woodland High School ought to be in here.
Yeah, and they each have an individual guidance plan that I maintain. I meet with them regularly. I have one big meeting with them every year, and then more after that, but the big one, and I do it in the spring. And they all have an individual guidance plan that's separate from their CUNY file. It's not out there for anyone else to see. It's their own business. And that's where we talk about those long-term goals, and where they see themselves, and trends, and these types of things that we need to be responsive to in our classrooms.
And that was another thing I'd like to stipulate. I know you already have it. And you just gave everybody an overview of what it is, and I guide individuals and groups through the development of educational and career plans. It doesn't say that anywhere in here. It ought to be on your list.
Yeah, it should. It could go with, it works in with 5 pretty well when I meet with them.
Another thing she does is noon lunch duty, don't forget that, Paula.
That's right.
Yes.
Stand-up team member, I'm up there on lunch duty.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every day's up.
They haven't got time for the kids, but we got time for lunch duty.
All day. I'm not sure what's going on.
Andy, you're gonna leave. I gotta take her home.
Okay.
I'd like to add one more. Performs other duties from time to time as assigned by the building administrator.
Right. I noticed that's on all the other
That's
job
gonna be on all the
applications, job descriptions, and
Somewhat
it wasn't.
required unless
Yeah.
you ask her to do something that's not on that list because it
Yeah.
needs to be done.
Yeah.
And she looks at you and says, I'm not gonna do that. You look at it and say, you don't have a job, and she's gonna look at you and say,
Yeah.
I'm suing you because it's
Right.
part of my job description.
Yeah. And I noticed that just now when Patsy said the duties,
I
and
know
that would fit under that category.
Geez, thanks, Mr. Braun.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
Everybody else has it on theirs, don't feel bad.
I know, but I said, they gotta put that on everything.
Is it signed by the superintendent?
Any
It was
duties?
signed by building administrator or the person supervisor, however you want to say it.
That's right. Yeah, I get you.
And Jane's got it too.
Don't know.
There-
You're gonna be
Yeah.
muted.
Sure.
Until midnight.
I know.
There is
You'll never
nothing
let me
in that job description that stipulates that she does work at the elementary school 1 day a week.
I know, and I didn't know what to do with that. So-
Right, because that should be in there. Because there's not a word mentioned about that.
Yeah.
I'll fix that. They could just say K through 12 at the top.
Yeah, problem solved.
Problem
Yeah.
solved. Doesn't need to say high school, because that's not what you are.
Wait till I get to those other duties, Paul.
Yes, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Also, you're telling us about counseling. Counsel individuals and small groups of students with problems, facilitating intervention when necessary. That's not in here. That's not mentioned at all. And another big thing you do, especially for seniors, is assist students in acquiring needed materials and letters for continuing education. Or we could say,
You're
I don't
busier than
know.
you thought you were.
I actually, I
So
should
that
have
one
brought
thing
this,
we took
remember
off
that,
your plate?
remember that document we did? These are so broad.
Yeah.
I've got a document that actually bullets these all out, and I think it's like 6 pages long.
yeah.
I could have brought it tonight,
But-
but we'd be
A lot of these things we know you already do,
Yeah.
but they're not specified, like you say. They're very vague.
No, should be added on there.
That first one really threw me. Arrange an adequate guidance program.
No, I was concerned about not that word adequate, but the next one too, and number 2.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not sure what
Low
adequate testing is,
expectations.
and I don't think the state does either.
well, I guess it would have to be just what they mandate.
I guess it's adequate.
Yeah, that's always kind of in flux with the state. So.
All right. I guess that concludes the revision of the guidance director counselor.
Need a vote on it?
Yeah.
Okay. I
Motion?
make a motion that we accept the revisions of the job description for the guidance counselor as we have revised it, as amended.
And I'll do my best to try and
Second
get it
it.
all.
Maybe wait for Bill to get his right hand free.
Okay, Elaine.
Moved
Yep.
by Elaine, seconded by
Becky?
Becky,
Okay, got
to
it.
accept the Woodland Guidance Director / Counselor job description revision.
K through 12.
K through 12?
Take off Woodland High School, and K
Did
through
Bill
12.
get all those written down that you needed, that you said at the end? You did? You're fast.
I had them already. I just had to circle in there.
Well, that's a good point. This is actually for the Woodland High School.
Well, that was my suggestion was, in that revision, that we take off Woodland High School and make it K through 12 guidance, because that's what she's doing. She's not just Woodland High School.
That would be the easiest thing to do.
With the understanding that should, God forbid, Paula leave, that the next person has a clear understanding that all those the majority of those responsibilities are focused at the high school. She doesn't have to come down in one day and try to do all of those things.
I think it's pretty well written that its majority is at the high school, though.
Yeah, oh yeah. Just by virtue of what's expected.
Well, I don't know if K through 12 is a little deceiving, but is it or isn't it?
No.
I mean,
No, I'm responsible for them. If Jane calls me on a Friday morning with an emergency of any kind, I go over. There's no, they coordinate, they don't mind that.
Mr.
I'm
Knowles?
flexible.
Don't we have pre-K?
Yeah, yes, it would be pre-K through 12, but
We don't want to leave those.
we don't want to leave them out. And
They're so
We'll-
happy.
more guidance for the parents,
Pre-K
and
through
drop them
12.
off the
Okay with
first
that?
day than anybody else.
I think we've made it specific enough.
Okay.
And in general, the only thing that would apply is counseling individuals and groups with,
Right.
have a problem. That's basically what she's doing at the elementary.
All right, so it's been moved by Elaine and seconded by Becky to accept the Guidance Director / Counselor job description as revised for Woodland High School / pre-K through 12.
Okay,
Everyone happy?
yes.
Make a suggestion. suggestion.
Yeah.
I don't know about anybody else, but I've been up since 5:45 this morning, and I have not stopped, and I haven't had dinner. So,
I need some
can we?
warrant signed before you go away.
It's either that
Gotta
or,
be for bills.
When's our next meeting?
September 22nd.
not that I want to put you off, Patty,
Again.
because I think you're pretty important. Just in case we have another conversation this year.
There's no new business for the policy BEDB.
Yeah.
The agenda thing?
Yes,
Okay, so,
and BEDBR, which is, you don't need to accept, it just goes with BEDB.
we have under new business appointments,
None.
none?
Yeah,
Nope, excuse me.
guidance secretary.
Guidance secretary. Well, I wasn't gonna do it till next week because I don't have anything on it.
I'll let it
Right,
slide
but
this
she's
time,
gonna be
since I was
coming
there.
in before the board says she's hired.
Yeah, but and it's
We can
new
do it.
business.
Okay, we can do it now then. Donna Brown.
Denise.
Denny.
Denise.
Denise Brown.